Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week, we left it up to the patrons.
The
And
people.
the people spoke,
The hood
and we
Paloi.
listened. The elite listenership that are part of our beautiful Patreon and Discord came together. They swung the vote, and they chose the film Silent Hill 2006. And I'm just going to read the IMDb trivia thing right now because otherwise I'm going to forget because this helmet that I'm wearing a helmet if you're just listening. It's squeezing my head so hard, I can't really think. But anyway, here it is. Rose Da Silva takes her adopted daughter, Sharon, to the town of Silent Hill.
Don't laugh at the
In an
name
attempt-
Sharon.
I did. And I will again.
I giggled.
To the town of Silent Hill in an attempt to cure her of her ailment. That's not it. Sorry, I paused too long. After a violent car crash, Sharon disappears and Rose begins a horrific journey to get her back. I love that it
Whoa.
says Rose Da Silva. First
You need her last
name.
name. You need
Yeah,
it.
it's a full government name, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The wife of Sean Bean.
Yeah. Sometimes known as Sheen Bean, I like to call
Or
him.
Bean.
Sean Bond.
Bean.
Yeah.
Sean Bond. Could go either way.
I'm a Sean
Go
Bond
either
fan,
way.
personally.
I'm a Sheen Bean girly
Okay.
myself.
All right. There can be different kinds of people in this world, and that's beautiful.
Here's the thing,
I
he
hope
could be
throughout
both.
The film we get this. Yeah, he could be both, and I hope that throughout this episode we come up with even yet another option for him. Sheeny
The long
Beanie,
baton.
Shawnee Bonnie. Oh, whoa! Now we're kind of
Ooh.
losing the Sean Bean in that, but I like it. But yeah, so the listeners chose this movie, and I've only been hearing about it for my entire life, pretty much. And I've never seen it. I have never really dabbled at all. I watched the first 5 minutes like 6 months ago. The first 5 minutes are great. It's very different than what the rest of the film is, I'll tell you that.
Honestly, yeah, I had never seen this movie before. I had heard of it, and I had heard of like Pyramid Head and the sexy nurses, scary
Yeah.
nurses, but I honestly don't even know for sure that I knew that those were Silent Hill. I just have like been around horror stuff enough to know that that is a thing that exists somewhere. Very shocking to start this movie and see that it's like not present day anymore, but like present day normal. I thought it was all like video game horror land stuff, but I thought it was a very interesting way to introduce you to what's going on.
Totally. Yeah, I mean the lore is deep.
That's what I'm
deep.
reading. I know none of it.
No, I think I remember some like vague stuff just from people like chatting about it. But like I've seen this movie one time in college and did not remember like anything from it. Forgot that the girl from Twilight
Yeah,
is in
that was what
this.
I have to say to Leo is guess what, Leo? Sharon is Bree Tanner from Twilight, okay?
Yes. I was like, oh my god, that's
That's
the
what it
Eclipse
is.
Twilight
I was like,
Bree
what?
Tanner, this short second life of Bree Tanner.
I was like, I know that little girl from something else, and I need to go to her IMDb and look it up. And wow,
Mhm.
lo and behold.
Yeah,
Like
my first
everything on
second
this
was,
podcast.
is that Renesmee? And then my second thought was, no, that's Bree Tanner.
That
Like-
is what I also thought, but I was like, that feels wrong. She's not Renesmee. She has
But
a
you got the
normally
Twilight
sized head.
vibes. Something about it was calling to you Twilight
It
wise.
all comes back to Twilight with
It
this
all comes back to
podcast. I'm
Twilight.
just saying.
It really fucking does. There's no escaping it. There really is no escaping it. But I don't know. I think it was cool to dive into this movie because like I've heard about this movie a lot. Like a lot whenever I talk to like new horror friends, like they a lot of time bring this up as a favorite. A lot, it's inspired a lot of cosplay.
Sexy
That
pyramid
is very
head.
intricate. Yeah, I mean, because Pyramid Head is really hot. The
I've
scary
seen it
kinda
with
thing
like
is
the
buff.
fishnet sexy lady legs I've seen.
not all of the things that are scary in this are hot, but 2 of them are. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. If you're looking for a
nurses with their
terrifying,
cleavage,
sexy
yeah.
There's a lot of
crossover.
like sexy cleavage from unfaced nurses.
Yeah,
Is that
no, they're
necessary?
really. I liked it.
Yes,
Since when do
I
you
would
not
argue
like
yes.
cleavage? What's going on? Are you okay? What's going on with you?
I do, but it's like, are these Halloween nurses? Are they real nurses? I have questions.
Was that their uniform? Was a push-up a part of their uniform? Was
Yeah.
that part of the lore that they got sexified after their death?
Right? Like, when you
There's-
die,
Was
do
there
you
just
become
one
sexy?
really sexy nurse who got multiplied?
Yeah. I have questions.
I don't necessarily have the answers, but I have some answers because I will preface this right now by saying the person who led the charge of making Silent Hill the chosen movie for our Patreon vote was our patron Leo, who has been telling me about Silent Hill for 3 years, like I told you guys when we were introducing this last episode. So he has been prepared. He had notes fucking ready. He created a subthread in the Discord and he posted all these notes. And I was like, well, I can't read this yet. I haven't watched the movie. And then I watched the movie and then I read it all today. And my research today was done by Leo. I didn't read anything. Leo, I read what Leo wrote. It was so comprehensive. Honestly, thank you, Leo. It was great. Honestly, it was better than me going all over the place. I did read a couple more ending explained articles because Leo and I have some disagreements. We'll get there. But
We'll get
big
there.
shout out to Leo. This episode is brought to you by Leo.
I will say, Silent Hill was originally not winning our patron vote. Originally, Companion was winning, and I had seen
Yeah.
Companion, so I was like, yes.
What fucking happened?
Leo, I suspect, was whipping the vote behind the scenes because people were changing their votes, or maybe just one person changed their vote and hopped on board the Silent Hill train because they thought it would be fun. The deciding vote, because it could have been a tie, the deciding vote was Ryan, who I did text a little about this movie.
Who did our art, to be clear.
Yeah, Ryan, our artist, our lovely
The
artist,
only
Ryan.
acceptable Ryan.
Right, and he said there was gay stuff in here, and so I got excited and I got on board the Silent Hill train. And I'm glad I did. But I am also coming in with the philosophy of like, I don't know anything about the video game. I didn't do any research. I think it is kind of an interesting test with this is an adaptation, right? Was the video game first?
Yes.
Video games first. Yeah, 100%. This is adaptation.
Yeah, so like this, like when we did Five Nights at Freddy's, I think when you're not familiar with the source material, it's interesting to see what comes through in the movie alone, and what information can be gleaned from the movie alone, both to see like how good of an adaptation it is, and also because you shouldn't have to necessarily do your homework to enjoy a movie. That can like deepen your experience of the movie. Yeah.
It should be
Also, I'm
able
just
to
not a video game
stand
girl.
on its own.
Right.
You shouldn't have to play 16 hours of a video game to watch the movie. I'm sure that enriches the experience 100%. But my philosophy is like it should be a movie. I'm not sure how I feel about that with this movie. I want to talk about it more with you guys to kind of like parse it out because I'm a little bit confused now because I've read so much of this like beautifully written out lore of what actually happened in the game. So
and I'll be so real when it comes to book adaptations, my attitude very different. I'm like, no, you have to put literally everything into the movie and blah 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 blah. So like, things, they're all different mediums. They'll have their own different ways of telling a story, and that naturally means there are going to be all kinds of differences. But
I'm going to be so honest. Like, I was not into this movie at all in the beginning, but I had a weird day yesterday, and so we know that that's part of it. I was like, ugh. And I was like, ugh, whatever, okay, whatever. Until, and I'm doing this so early now, so I can take my helmet off. Until Sybil, the fucking hot cop, took her fucking helmet off, and then I was balls to the wall into the film.
Locked
hardcore.
in.
I was locked in. And so now I'm going to do the same thing because I can't hear and I can't breathe and I'm dying and my whole wig might come off. So we'll see what happens. Please don't
Pretty
come off,
good.
wig.
Pretty good.
Oh God. Oh God. It's not
Ah!
hot like her.
It's stuck.
I need help.
Just duck out of sight. Yeah.
God, I really thought I was gonna die there for a second. Okay. Whew.
There she
Sorry,
is.
it's a really
from the
bad wig.
street. Yeah, I was
Okay.
wondering earlier.
Wow.
I was like, it's such a shame you gave your girl Fieri wig to Savannah.
Oh no, she left it, and I had two, bitch, and I had fucking
Thank
two. Because
God.
me, Adam, and I were guy and girl Fieri for Halloween one year, and so we both
Great
had these
year.
same fucking ugly ass wigs. They're so bad. I tried to turn it around. I'm gonna show you the back. Way worse to turn it around.
No, I
I
think
thought,
it's
oh,
perfect
because she's
just as
kind of
it
got the
is.
little bangs that come. No, it's like a bowl cut. It was heinous, disgusting. You would have thrown up. So anyway, this is like I'm Sybil. Like if they cleaned her up after she was already fried. Because her hair is just sticking straight fucking up, or maybe she got hit by lightning. But anyway, I also think,
She got scared
at
and
least
all
for
her hair
me,
stood on end.
yeah, I think parts of this movie, it was like a grower, not a shower for me. Like I think that I did like it more watching it a second time because I knew more watching it the second time, because I, to be so honest, I watched it twice. The second time I was like reading about the lore of the games as I was watching it, so it wasn't a full attention sort of thing. But like, I, for example, with Sybil's character, I feel like I liked her character a lot more once we got the information that explains her motivations, because at the beginning Sybil is so weird to me, and like she seems like such a weird fake cop character. Like I don't know what it was. I was like
Yeah.
very put off by the way she was acting. But then like later on in the movie, sorry we're jumping all around, but like this is, I'm thinking about Sybil because I'm looking at myself. But later on in the movie, you find out like she had a harrowing experience where she like helped with a child trafficking situation. And so she's obviously seeing something that looks like it could be child trafficking between Rose and Sharon, because I mean, Sharon's adopted, Rose and Sharon don't look alike because of that. So it's like raising the hairs on the back of her neck. So that's why she's acting so weird. So like I don't know. I think the second time around I just was like more amenable to a lot of things with this movie. But I did like that it started like in medias res. Like it just starts and you're in the middle of fucking craziness where like Sharon has left the house. I thought that was really jarring, but an interesting way to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, introducing the sleepwalking and the cliff also really raises the stakes for you to understand, like, why Rose makes the decision she does to take Sharon back to Silent Hill, West Virginia, where she keeps saying Silent Hill in her sleep when she's sleepwalking, and she's like blah blah blah, and they know she's from West Virginia. So she's like, we got to like investigate this mystery and like figure out what happened to our child so that we can help her, or like whatever her deal is. um
Mhm.
because you can see that like it really is this close to the daughter wandering off the cliffs in the middle of the night. And
That
she's like,
yeah.
it really just like sets you in motion to understand why they would go on this balls to the wall adventure is not quite the word, but sort of. Because she really is just
It's
like
surely
so
an adventure, not
desperate
in a
at that
fun way.
point. She is so desperate for a solution because any moment could be the wrong moment.
I think one of the things that's hard with this movie is, and I think this happens multiple times throughout, there's so much information in 4 games worth of Silent Hill lore, you know, that they're trying to jam pack into this one movie, because there is a sequel, but like it wasn't guaranteed that they were gonna get a sequel with a first movie. Like that's how it is
Yeah.
always. And there's more reasons that you can see that they try to like smoosh it. Like they didn't do 1 game per movie, you know, there's some crossover which I'll get into later. But they try. There's so many moments where they're giving you like so much fucking information in 5 seconds, and it's like coming at you. The beginning is kind of like that too, because it's like Sheen Bean is another way to say it. Sheen Bean was like,
Jeenie Beanie.
oh well, the therapy and the medications and the blah blah blah, like we can try those again. And then Rose is like, no, they don't work. We have to go put her back in the traumatizing place where that makes her want to jump off cliffs. Interesting, but
Well, once they said they got her as a baby, that made more sense to me why they would return to the scene of the crime because like in theory, it's not like they got her as a toddler where there might be like memories that are buried. You know what I mean? Like she was an
Mhm.
infant and you can definitely like there is genealogical stress basically that can like get passed down in a family just from like the
That's fair.
adverse experiences that you go through. But once it wasn't like she showed up we adopted her as a 5-year-old who never spoke and then like now she's 9 and these things are coming to the surface, you know what I mean? It's like she was a baby when they got her, so it's not like she necessarily like witnessed something that's buried so much as just and being exposed to stress like that and trauma like that will, but they're not necessarily. I thought it was interesting the way that they did that because I really didn't know what the deal was
Yeah.
until they say halfway through the movie, 3/4 through the way through the movie that she was a baby.
Yeah, no, it's you find out things. Obviously, it's a movie. They're not going to tell you everything up front, but I I feel like this one is particularly a little bit lost for a while. One little note that I will make, and this kind of brings up some of the lore of the first game, because basically this movie is kind of like a reinterpolation, retelling, but different thing totally of the first game in particular. And the first game, the main character was Harry, who is the father of a little girl very similar to Sharon, but her name was Cheryl. What an
Oh,
interesting choice.
Why'd
They
they
changed
change it?
Cheryl. Well, I don't know, but that because of that, I noticed a Easter egg in the very opening scene for game heads. I don't know. Maybe there's more stuff in this
gamers.
than I gamers. More
Game
stuff in this
heads.
than I even realized. I don't know, man. I'm saying some stuff. I'm trying out some new stuff. There's a pyramid head. There's game heads. Okay, it can happen. You just open your mind. Anyway,
Tomato, tomato. It's fine.
tomato, tomato. What was it? Sundance, sunglass. It's fine. That's really come back to haunt me. Chelsea was razzing me for that yesterday.
I got her last night.
In
I
a
got her on
couple
your behalf,
weeks.
Sydney.
It's been
God.
a couple of weeks. God damn it. Anyway. But yeah, like there might be more references in it, but I was thinking, I don't know why, like they have that shot where it's like a cool like lower shot of Rose in that tunnel that she runs through to get to the waterfall and that like drop off cliff that is so close to her house. Spooky.
Right?
And there's all this graffiti in there, and I remember looking at it and having a thought like, do you think that the set dressers put that graffiti there, or was there graffiti already there and it's a real place, or blah blah blah? I don't know. I had this thought, and then I read Leo's like description of what happened in game 1, and it said Cheryl, and I was like, oh my god, well it says Cheryl in there right above her head. It says Cheryl graffitied on the top, so I thought that that was interesting. But yeah, like it is interesting that they switched the gender of the protagonist, and Sheen Bean's character does not fucking exist in.
I thought it was so interesting though, because obviously he's not part of the main action, but I thought him on the outer level doing his research campaign was a great way to include exposition that you probably get in like a cutscene in the game or whatever. Like exposition that can be in a game they can be like bloop and they bring up something that you read or
Yeah.
whatever, or like part of the video game is like go to the archives and blah 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 blah, that's like one of your whatevers. And that can be hard to work that level of information into a movie without it being so heavy handed. So I thought his character doing his own journey outside of it was a great
Totally.
way to like give you more information about like what the mystery was and what was going on without distracting the pace of like the actual adventure.
I also love that his cop buddy's last name is Gucci.
Gucci, Tony Gucci.
Yeah.
Gucci. I thought that was
The
hilarious.
Gooch.
Yeah, no. I like that was obviously like a totally different plot line, or not obviously, but it was a totally different plot line than what happens in the actual game. And I know some people didn't love that, but I did love the like emotional aspect that it brought to the whole movie where they're like in this like two different worlds, these two
Yeah, in the
parallel
hallway when they're in Silent Hill.
universes. Yeah, I
She
thought
was-
that
I
that was
could
really,
feel
really
her. I
interesting.
smelled her perfume. Yeah, I really like. I mean, that was
Yeah,
great setup for
I
sure for what later is.
I
but
thought
like
it was
that alone, super cool.
I thought that was super compelling, but that's like not really that's not a thing in the game as much. It's more just like focused on being in the world. And Pigeon Pin in this, but like watching the film leads to a lot of theories for me that are like not things necessarily in the gameplay and like are very divisive to game players, game heads, if you will. In
Game
many circles, they're
heads.
called game
As they love to
heads.
call themselves.
To game heads, no, to gamers who've played it and watched the movie and have their expectations of their interpretation of the ending because they've seen all the options, all the ways the ending could play out. And Leo also outlined all the different ways the game can end because it's a game that has multiple endings depending on what you
You
choose.
do.
So I'm
to
excited
choose your own
to talk
adventure?
about that later.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems like it did like make me want to play the game.
I
And
liked
I
this
do
movie.
think-
I would play the game if I had a console or ever played games.
I
Yeah.
bet the game's actually like really scary.
I bet it's fun. And I
Oh,
could
I
see
bet it's
some of this
super
like really seemed like I could see how this would be part of a video. I mean, I don't know if it is the same in the video game, obviously, but I could see how like it is giving video game adaptation for sure.
It's
Oh, yeah,
absolutely giving video game adaptation, and I have a bone to pick a little bit with some of
Okay,
it.
no, tell me
The
because
graphics.
I felt it was a little bit like it felt so much like a game to me sometimes that I was like
Her-
annoyed, but then I was also like, okay, it was a video game and that's
Well,
fine. Like I was
well, it
like,
was,
but
this
maybe
is the
people
part
wanted
where
that.
you do a fight, you know?
Yeah,
but I don't
but
know.
For
Keep going,
me,
Sid.
what like really got it, like I used to play World of Warcraft, right? And so like you would have to.
Play.
Oh
Love
yeah.
that.
Know that.
I tried to play World of
yeah.
Warcraft to impress Spencer, my
Boys.
childhood crush.
My high school boyfriend and all of like our
You
friends
in
played all the
a
time.
guild?
And so if I wanted to spend any time with them at all, I had to play. And
Would you go AFK? That means away
What
from
does that mean?
keyboard.
ooh,
Oh.
I
It's like BRB for gamers.
back in 2007, I did get to level 70. I think there's more. It was like that was the
Whoa.
max level at the time. I'm
Oh
assuming
my
there are
God,
more
okay,
levels.
Slay Queen.
That's
But, like,
awesome.
When you're doing the video games, right? You're like running
Yeah.
around and then you like find a clue and that clue
Uh-huh.
tells you, "Oh, you've got to go here next." And like that's what she did. Like she gets out of the car and she's like, "Where is my child?" "Oh, look, a convenient drawing that says school." "Oh, I guess
Yeah.
I should go to the school."
It's like you're in this gated area. You can walk around the whole perimeter of it, but you can't go anywhere else until you find the clue.
Yeah, and then like, you get to the school and then all of a sudden you find a dead body that looks like it's been through a saw trap. And she's just like, "Well, what if I
Reach
there
my
must-
hand
there's-
inside and
it's
pull out the
Something in his
fucking
mouth.
Yeah, there must be
yes.
something in his mouth."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
It
did.
did kind
I
of feel like
felt the
watching a
exact same
playthrough.
way.
Right?
Except there's one
That was
piece
my
of paper on the
criticism, too.
ground. There's one piece of paper on the ground by the car that she never picks up and looks at. And I really
Yes!
thought it was going to be relevant in some way. And it never came back.
What
I
if
think
she-
it was the one that she picked up earlier and she just dropped it? I don't know. I thought that same thing. I was like, what
like
is
the
that?
sunflowers?
It's just sitting there. What?
The first picture she picks up is like a drawing of sunflowers.
Oh.
Maybe she just dropped that one back on the ground and then the other one had whatever clue.
The school.
Yeah, because it
It's
just
a
felt
video
like
game. That would be crucial information. Or it would be like you can't pick it up. It's actually just part of the floor.
the fucking thing with the mouth though. When she goes in the mouth, I was like, you know, in video games where things like sparkle if you're supposed to touch them
Yeah,
or something,
Yeah.
or they
it
have
like
like an
clearly is
aura.
a slightly different graphic than the rest because it's not
I was
background.
like,
It's like
that's what
Yeah.
that would have
a
been.
floating
Like, what do you
aura.
mean I
Uh-huh.
have to go into his mouth? You have
Ugh.
to. It's glowing.
It's glowing.
There's something in there. Yeah. There's
Yeah,
something in there that's different than the background, so you have to interact with it.
I think one of the things that I found most interesting, as far as like lore and background to this movie, that Leo shared with me, citing my source Leo,
My
is
source.
the director here, Christophe Gans. He might be French. I'm not sure. He's giving a European vibe in the videos that I watched. Christophe Gans. Anyway, he really wanted to make this into a movie. He was like super fucking stoked about the idea of making this into the movie after he played the game, because he played the game and he loved the game. And so he was trying to adapt it for a long time. And let me just find this point in my notes. My computer is acting like it has a virus, which I love for me, and probably
You want to
should
know
have
why
restarted
it probably has
before
a
the
virus?
episode.
Because we can see the porn that you're looking at, Monica, through the reflection of your glasses.
Monica!
It's
you
hot,
imagine?
faceless nurses in your area.
And they're just
Can
like
you
jiggling.
imagine? Could you imagine if I was watching porn while we were recording and I outed myself with these
With your
aviators?
reflective glasses.
That would be
Pull up
really
something real
else.
quick.
Yeah. Let's see.
Let's just do a
Let
funny,
me just pull
a
up
funny
some porn
gag. Yeah.
really quick. Okay. All right, I found it. So yeah, he wanted to work on this for a really, 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 really long time. And he went to like the company that owns it and was like, hey, what if I made a movie? Blah, blah, blah. And they weren't down. They weren't down at first. They're like, oh, we don't necessarily need this, blah, blah, blah. And because they're like focusing on Silent Hill 2 coming out. Like that's how
Sure.
early. Like I don't know the exact timing of everything, but Silent Hill 2 came out, and maybe even 3 before this movie came out. But anyway, he was so profoundly moved. He was like, fuck you. And he took matters into his own hands, to quote Leo, and he made a vision film for the film, a 37-minute long video, like with, I don't know, it was like a whole pitch to these people, and it had
This is my
Japanese
proof of
subtitles because I
concept?
think, yeah, it had Japanese subtitles because I think maybe the company that created this game is from
Is
Japan.
yeah. It's just made the
Yeah,
Wikipedia.
Konami is the name of the company, I believe. Anyway, and he like was like, please look, I'm gonna do so good by this concept. I'm gonna make it into something so beautiful. And then they're like, okay, well, actually, that sounds pretty cool. And so then they decided to do it. So he was really, really passionate about this. And I think he did do a cool spin on things, even though it's not exactly what the game is. But like it's pretty similar to what happens in the first game. But some things that are different is Pyramid Head is not in the first game at all. He's in the second game. And I'm not, honestly, I don't know when the nurses come into play. Sorry, I haven't played the game, so don't kill me in the comments. But I'm not sure about that. But the nurses and the
They
Pyramid
appear in
Head
almost
are like
every
the two.
Silent Hill game, is what Wikipedia
But they're not.
says.
Yeah, I would imagine the nurses are in the first one because it goes with the plot of the story for sure,
Okay.
with like the burning of Alessa and all of that, and like her putting a curse on the nurses that were in the hospital. Maybe I think that makes sense, and I'm pretty sure that that part stays canon to the game's story. But Pyramid Head himself is not in that one at all. He's in the second one. But like I was saying earlier, they didn't think they were going to necessarily get another movie. And this is like the Silent Hill movie. And the two most iconic villains in all of the Silent Hill games are the nurses and Pyramid Head. So they had to, like, fans would have been probably annoyed if they didn't get to see him, if they never got to the second movie. And then apparently the second movie doesn't even follow the plot of the second game, like, at all. And they just did their own thing completely. And people fucking hate that one.
Oh.
I knew
But
that.
people
And it also
also-
came out like 6 years after this one did.
Oh, interesting, because it's
Like it
like
came out in
supposed to be
2012.
with the same characters.
Maybe they weren't. I mean, I can tell you now that the movie was not very well received critically. Like audiences may be separate, but critically kind of a stinker. So I wonder if they needed like the continued success and popularity of the video games to be like people will still come see this movie even if you think it like didn't perform that well box office wise.
Well, I think another thing is that like people didn't really like even game heads.
Even
I
game
know
heads.
that is
The game
lame.
heads.
Even game heads, even people who would play the game like didn't fuck with this one super heavy at first because it is different. It is different. You know, like they probably like I get it. If the whole story's about fucking Harry and they deleted Harry and switched it up completely, like I can imagine them being frustrated. For me, as a person who never played the game, thank God it's Rose because the thing I am most compelled by in this entire movie is Rose and Sybil. We're gonna get there soon. And so thank God. But I can understand why they'd be like, what the fuck? Why did you change it?
Yeah. Well, I'm also glad they
And they
did
didn't
because
really
I watched this movie and was like, how come nobody told me this was a movie for girls?
Oh, I will say the one
It's a
and
girls'
only
movie.
the one and only fact that I know about this movie is the reason why they changed it from Harry to Rose is because like the studio didn't want like a man doing feminine things like searching for his like daughter or like panicking and like
What?
doing that kind of stuff.
It's not masculine to be scared in a horror environment. We need a female protagonist.
the 2000s were a bad time, man. That is not
That's
good.
crazy though, because I was watching this movie and I was like, this is such a traditionally male story arc that Rose gets to do. Because I was thinking about the dad in like The Hills Have Eyes and how we talked about that trope with like the nerd dad becomes like the action hero who saves his child and
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think men showing very healthy love and concern for their daughters is very masculine. Actually,
Yeah.
is it gay to
Yeah.
love your wife?
Is it gay to have a child with your female wife and love your child?
It is. Well, I mean, it's so interesting that that's the reason why they changed it because I also think that I was kidding. I also think that like they made Sean Bean look like a kind of an idiot like in this movie. So if like they're not trying like he didn't seem like some like amazing feat of masculine energy to me. To me, he seemed like he was always 5 steps behind his wife. Quite literally in the beginning, I was like, why are you still upstairs and your wife is already outside if the child is missing? And then like he's just always
Father.
late to the party and he can't get through and like I feel bad for him because he can't I mean obviously he can't enter Silent Hill. Only the dark one determines who enters and exits Silent Hill. What's the quote? Only the dark one opens and closes the door to Silent Hill. That's a
Dun,
quote
dun,
from
dun.
Dahlia. Just
Is that in the
saying.
movie or is that
That's a
from the
quote from
lore?
Dahlia in the movie.
That's in the
It's
movie.
Okay.
movie. It's in the movie.
Um,
The
at
dark one
least-
being Alessa's demon thing.
At least Sheeny Beanie doesn't die in this movie like he does in almost every other movie that he's
Good for
in.
him. Spoiler alert, he doesn't
He's
die.
so excited. Yeah. He's like, finally. Oh my God. It's been so long.
So fucking funny. But yeah, it's such an interesting story and it's also like based on a little bit of a real thing cuz this town of Silent Hill is based on this town called what is it? Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Centralia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is such a sad story. I mean, that one wasn't started by a cult. That wasn't like a cult burning of a witch that ignited the coal mines, but burning of their landfill did ignite the coal mines and destroy
This
the
was-
town.
You could tell I was like a really cool middle schooler because this was one of my favorite hyperfixations in 6th grade.
Oh yeah.
That
Okay,
for
any more
you.
details you want to share about Centralia?
This is a
Like-
good Sydney lore episode.
People like a lot of people think it happened in the 60s, but some people think it could have like started as early as like the 1930s, and it is like still burning like to this
Yeah.
day.
Mhm.
there was like a sinkhole there like a bunch of times, and like people have fallen
Can you
in.
give Ladybug
and
some attention, please? She's dying over
Ladybug
there.
is slapping me in
Ladybug
the
has
face, and it's
so
so
many
cute.
to say. I've been
Ladybug's
gone
like,
all
stop
weekend,
talking about
and
that.
she's,
Shh.
she's like,
No,
mother,
keep going,
quiet.
Sydney.
And I've always wanted to go. Always wanted Spooky Tuesday road trip to Centralia.
Spooky
Oh,
Tuesday,
yeah.
dangerous, life-threatening road trip.
Yeah, let's go get fucking lung cancer. No.
We can wear gas masks. It'll be fine.
Can wear full on
It'll
hazmat
be
suits, but that
just
won't
like
save
the
us
full
people
from the
Silent
bugs.
Hill.
That won't save us from the bugs that are actually little dudes? Question
I
mark.
know, they're just little guys.
They're little guys. They're little men underneath, like who are just like cool.
Those bugs
that
were
was cool.
so creepy.
I thought they were rats at first. Maybe that's because of
I thought they were
Nosferatu.
rats too, but then I was like, oh, they are giving scorpion, and then they're also giving crab horseshoe crab for sure.
And also like
so-
a little roly-poly ish.
Yes. And did I say scorpion? And scorpion, if I didn't say that already, sorry. Centralia really quickly though. One part of lore that I thought was interesting too is when everyone was told that they had to evacuate because there were like horrible fumes coming up from the coal mine, and it was like an abandoned coal mine. They didn't know it was there, and there was like a tunnel that went from where the landfill was straight to the coal mine that wasn't blocked off, and that's how it happened. But like people were told they had to leave, and so most people left, and it became a ghost town. But not everybody left, and one of the main buildings that stayed in use for years after was the church, which I think is very interesting because the church is such a central part of Silent Hill the movie. So I thought that was a cool thing. But I think now everybody's gone. At least I hope so. But they don't even they like shut down the postcode there. So like no mail goes there anymore. It's just completely cut off. So
The only thing
really
that
good
goes
fodder
there
for a
is
game.
Spooky Tuesday.
No. Let's go to Boston instead and see Shannon do drag. I'd rather do that.
Porque lo nos dos.
That's
Mhm,
true.
mhm.
That's
We can
true.
hit it on the way.
Oh my god, I don't want to die. But I do love going to abandoned places, and that's one of the
I
reasons
love
that I will
abandoned places.
die violently
I
first
know.
or second.
That's part of why I really liked this movie.
Yeah, I
That
love
aesthetic is so cool.
The
Yeah.
atmosphere that it creates is honestly perfect for a Halloween Horror Nights maze. I absolutely get why they like always have one.
Dude, I had that literal exact same thought. Parts of it
Right?
literally looked like one because there were all those like just like dead, mutilated corpses everywhere, like hanging from shit. And
Hanging.
I was like, I've been in this maze before, actually. Weird. So that made me feel at home. It's so confusing though too because it's just like you don't ever really get explained what is actually like fucking going on once they're in
No.
there. But this is a thing. Sydney saw me make a face earlier and looked at me like I was reacting to what she said, but this is because I looked up something and I got really excited. So one of the big inspirations for this movie is The Mist, actually.
I was thinking about The
Oh.
Mist, but also
Okay.
Andrea from Walking Dead is in that movie.
What
and
is
this
it?
movie.
Please don't say
Oh.
my thing. That was my whole
I
point.
didn't know that was what you were gonna say.
I know. That let me finish what I was gonna say.
Chelsea
Sydney
strikes
can
I
cut
didn't-
this out. Oh my god. I'm sorry we're so connected.
It's okay. That was just my whole exciting thing that I was excited to say. The whole time I was watching this movie, I was like, I know Sybil's face. Why do I know her face
Mhm.
so well? And that is because the actress is, oh my God, it's going away, Laurie Holden. And she is in The Mist, and she's like one of the main 4 people in The Mist. So I thought that was such an interesting through line. Because when did that movie come
Yeah,
out?
when did The Mist come out?
Unfortunately, my computer is acting so slow that I
I'll Google it
cannot
for you.
navigate between things. Oh, wait, here, hold on.
Monica, it's all the porn. Exit out of the porn.
It's not, I don't have it.
Do you want me
going.
to
I
say
closed
it?
already. Yeah, say it.
2007.
Oh.
Oh, so it was the next year. How weird. Interesting. Yeah. Because this, they call it The Fog in at least what Leo was describing to me here. Like there's like two phases that like entering Silent Hill can go into, and it's like the fog and the other world, and it like fluctuates between the fog, which is just when it's foggy and everything's spooky and scary, but you're just like hanging around. There's like the ash coming down or whatever. But then like things will switch, and that's when all those fucking monsters come out and everything
The
turns to
darkness.
rust. And yeah, it's so interesting.
The
It's
paint
like
peels away and
yeah, it's like everything erodes, and then you can see the coal mine, and all the fuckers come out, and the weird guy
the
who
burning
got
babies.
After the tornado, like siren goes off.
yeah. So I thought that that was so interesting. There's no real explanation from that, and it is supernatural, so there doesn't need to be an explanation. But I thought it was cool that it goes through phases. I was like, is there a timeline for this? How do they know? They just like see shit start flying up into the sky, so they turn the siren on.
Well,
So-
they have like the bird in a cage, very coal mine adjacent
mine-y.
of like the
Oh,
canary
And
in
the
the coal
crows.
mine. They're carrying
Yes.
them around, and yeah, they see the crows like swarming in
Yeah.
the air.
Yes.
And that's when they
Okay,
go, "Oh
okay,
shit's
no,
getting
you're
real. We
so
gotta
right.
go. Start the alarm. We're running."
Okay, yeah. Oh, based on birds. You should be a
I want
birder.
to know. Oh, Monica, you'll love this. My enemy, the woodpecker at our lake house, was spotted again
Uh-huh.
today.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
I
I'm glad
hate
it's
that
not dead, but
bitch.
I'm sorry that you hate it.
I hate that bitch because it made a nest right outside my window and would peck at like 4 a.m. and wake me up at all times.
Oh my god.
I hate that bitch. It is on my enemies list in my phone.
How long has he been
actually.
there?
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
fair.
Like a decade.
Okay, so that's like
Like
that's your long-term nemesis.
yes. I hate that bitch. Like glad he still shows up. I was
Yeah.
nervous, but
Yeah.
like I thought after the tornado he would stop coming. I was wrong.
I thought I
I
would have
was
taken
wrong.
him, but
What were we talking about?
I don't know
Um,
if this is what we were talking about, but I also got the Mist vibes from this movie, and I thought that that was very cool and fun, and I
Yeah.
really liked that. And it also made me think, not exactly the same, obviously, but it made me think of the Chernobyl Diaries as well.
Yes.
And like
Jesse
going into like
McCartney's
the
sleigh.
abandoned, irradiated alarms might go off if levels get too high, and you gotta just shit hits the fan, you start running.
Okay, when are we doing
So-
Jesse McCartney Chernobyl
Jesse
Diaries?
McCartney Chernobyl
Oh my
Diaries.
god.
Does he have more than one horror movie? Can we give him a whole month?
Oh god. That would be worse than Chloe Grace Moretz month for sure.
Chloe Grace Moretz
Chloe Grace
remake
Moretz
month?
remake month. You have to be
Actually,
Remake
no, we
month. I always
actually
forget
have-
the remake
We
part.
actually have to do that one. That one's funny.
I don't want you guys to spoil this movie for me in case you have seen it, but apparently Jacob's Ladder was a really big influence for the game.
I haven't seen that one.
as well.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar.
And I've always been scared to watch it because I feel like the vibe looks like a vibe that I don't like, which unfortunately this movie has the general overall energy vibe that is not for me, Monica Height. Unfortunately,
it
and
was
I can
more for me than
recognize
I was
that.
expecting.
It's more for you than I was expecting too, because I'm glad you liked it so much. I think it just has some of the like Y2K like trends of like the torture horror, like the way that it
Mm.
The
looks for
post
parts of it.
9/11 horror
The post
movie
9/11
of it all.
horror. No, but there's just like this certain like type of grimy gore stuff, and it's just like the tone of this film. I was like, whoa. And like it's effective. It's effective. I just like it's not something I'm gonna seek out, for me
Mhm.
personally. But it did have some really cool inspirations for it that I do really like. So like it also apparently was influenced by Dario Argento's films Suspiria, Inferno, and Demons. Which I
Hell
can
yeah.
see that. Demons is fucking crazy. If you guys haven't seen Demons, it's dumb, but it's fun. And it's that giving the like satany vibes, and then like the surreal aspects of it were inspired by like David Lynch's films, like Eraserhead, Dune, Blue Velvet, and Lost Highway, which I've not seen all of those to be so clear. Actually, I've only seen Eraserhead. I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into it. And Blue Velvet.
It also kind of gives like Hellraiser a
totally
little
Yeah,
bit too.
I thought about
100% with
that
the
in
barbed
terms of like,
wire.
Yeah.
yeah, and with the
And all
like
the
the most
chains and
famous
stuff
thing
like
about
that.
it is actually like really not the overarching plot setup. That's just like the monster. Um, because I thought that was so interesting. That was the Pinhead and Co. were the only things I knew about Hellraiser going in, and then I was like, oh, there's this whole other shit. There are all these people in this movie.
There's people?
There's people in this movie. Isn't that
People?
crazy?
Wait,
And then it
so
was the
what
same thing
what
with
would you
this.
yeah, what is that? What is say what you mean exactly? Because I don't know what the thing is people know about this movie. Is it
Pyramid
Pyramid
Head
Head?
and the sexy
Oh.
nurses.
Oh, okay. Same thing.
That's all I
Yeah.
knew, at least. But like the sorry to go back to the mist again. The cult
Oh,
stuff is very like lets her face in the mist too when she starts like proselytizing to all of the people and like will give them sacrifices. Like that
yeah.
felt very this.
Also, like when I was just saying that this doesn't have the tone for me, we're talking about inspiration. This does. I was thinking, no, it doesn't. But yes, it totally does have vibes like The Hills Have Eyes, which I fucking hate. So, and it has hill in the name. But like,
Something
like
terrible happened
the
here and everybody was
deformed.
supposed to leave, but the people who stayed.
Yeah, and like I don't know, it's like the deformed creatures and stuff like that. That's spot on. The radiation thing, which is like so which we were just talking about with Chernobyl Diaries, that is a thing in The Hills Have Eyes as well. So there's definitely crossover there. So I think it was reminding me of that movie, and that was another reason why I had a hard time with it. But
And
I
the
mean,
took my
even
baby aspect.
yeah, and the took my baby aspect. Yeah, totally right. I think also it's hard because I did like the creatures in this. Like, let's take out sexy nurses and the pyramid head guy, which apparently, what did Leo just say in the chat? It's like the embodiment of existentialism. That's what the pyramid head is supposed to be. I don't understand. But he
I
just
did
was saying that in
see
the chat right now. And I was like, whoa. Because, like, we don't really find out anything about Pyramid Head in this. He's just here. He's got a big, sexy knife, phallic.
his big
Yeah.
sword.
His sword is very phallic.
Yeah. When he came on, I was like, what's his backstory? Where'd he get
Yeah.
this knife?
I
Why
don't
is he
know.
ripped?
And him with
He's
the
so
bugs
ripped.
again. We mentioned Nosferatu already, but also I think, as we said in the Nosferatu episode, it's given a little oogie boogie from Nightmare
Oogie
Before
boogie,
Christmas.
pestilence
The
vibes
bugs.
happening. Yeah,
But
but
like the existentialism thing, I saw on the Wikipedia page when I looked up the nurses to see where they are, that it quote they appear typically due to the quote sexual frustration or health conditions of many of the protagonists. So like I don't really know what that deal was with that in the games. But if
well,
you're saying they're like sexy on purpose because it's like projecting some internal psychological
that's exactly what it
experience,
is.
that makes
That's
sense. I don't know why
that's
it's doing
part
that,
of what
but
happens in Silent Hill. It's supposed to like look into whoever the victim is or the protagonist or whoever it may be and like extract their fears and have it come for them. So I don't think that necessarily like I think that's more in the game because I don't find that to be what is happening in this movie at all because we don't know
maybe
Rose enough for
Salon
that.
Baton is a doctor, and so Rose is really scared that he's being seduced by the nurses that he works with, and she's projected them into the
Totally.
game because she's like, oh no, my husband could cheat on me. Sydney
Well,
mentioned
it
Saw Trap. That's very Saw, you know.
Uh-huh.
definitely. I think that for this one, at least from some of the lore that I know about some of these monsters that we do see, not Pyramid Head, not the nurses, but specifically the weird little guys, not the bugs, the weird
The
gray
burning
children
babies.
baby things. Those apparently, according to Leo, are supposed to be the children that mock her in the flashback, that mock Alessa in the flashback. Yeah.
Oh.
And did you know they're mocking her? I didn't get this because there's so much information in that flashback. I was like, what the fuck's going on? They all just hate her because she was born out of wedlock.
Right?
It was giving big Scarlet Letter vibes.
Yeah.
They're like,
they're
your
just-
mom's a whore.
Yeah.
Like Crucible, I have never read the Crucible, so I can't really speak to it specifically, but I got Crucible vibes and I got Scarlet Letter vibes. And
Yeah.
it was so interesting because the whole thing there was like, she must be born of a demon or Satan or whatever because we don't know who her dad is.
Yeah.
She just spawned.
Well, yeah, because like pretty much all of the monsters in this, except for again Pyramid Head. I have an argument for the nurses being what I'm about to say, and I have no fucking clue what the weird like half in a flesh body bag guy who spits acid is. No idea. I've got nothing on that. But they all seem to
With
be
no
Oh,
things.
arms.
who like
The no
melts off.
arm. Yeah,
Yeah,
melts off the
Sybil's her
helmet.
helmet and her jacket, and then she
That
just
maybe that character is just there so
sexy.
I can see her be sexy, and so we
We
can all
have
see
She
to
her
had
show
to
the
take off
shape
her
of her
helmet
tits. We need
somehow.
the jacket off.
how would we do that otherwise? So
Mhm.
Also,
you know, but like I think all of the monsters in this are all just like monster versions of bad things that happen to Alessa because it's the
Mhm.
babies. It's the nurses. There's an argument to be made that the nurses are just like she hate how that in the flashback she's like she got filled by hate and then the demon came to her and was like you want to team up and become evil and fuck everybody up. So I can imagine her just like hating the nurses that worked on her and so she turned them all into some sort of thing or it's just like I don't really know exactly how the monsters work. I don't know if they're like people or they're imaginary or what. I think that I just only exist when it's otherworld time and when it's radiation time or whatever you want to call it. When after the siren goes off and the birds caw and say, "Actually, go home. It's a bad time to be around here."
Go take
Um,
refuge in the church.
but they're all just like instead of that being like a mirror to Rose or something, it's like a mirror to things that have affected Alessa. So interesting, different than what I seems happens in the game. So I don't
I
know.
think it would be very
Oh.
hard in the movie to show that it was Rose's
Totally
psychological
agree.
experience unless they're gonna like show Sybil experiencing something different in the same scene, and that could be a compelling movie.
Yeah,
But it would be very different than
very
this
different.
one. And I think the different realities with Salon Baton and Rose alone was a good way to show that. And then splitting it up further than that, I think it's gonna be really hard to communicate that information to the viewer.
Totally. I think it could be done, but again, a completely different movie. Just before I forget to, the third example of what I was trying to say is Colin, the janitor who she killed and strung up.
Yeah,
The one
who
who
was gonna
yeah.
molest her.
sexually assaulted her, yeah. I think he did.
Yeah.
And then she punishes him by killing him, I guess, is what we're supposed to believe. And then he's also one of those nasty, horrible demons, which I just so important for him to be doing the whole tongue thing the whole time he was rolling around on the ground. Really, that was so important to me. It was disgusting. That was so it was a little bit funny, but it's not because
But
then you
it's
remember
also
what
not.
happened and you're like, oh God, that's why he's being a fucking pervert because he's a fucking pervert.
Right.
So it's one of those movies that it's like, let's make everything so gritty and disturbing. And I don't fuck with
Yeah.
necessarily with that exact type of thing. But
Yeah.
it was gritty and disturbing. They did what they were trying to do. Anyway, pin out of bad CGI. Sydney, how you have the floor.
The CGI is so bad. Like I get that they
It
needed
is.
like a lot, but part of me was like I would have rather had maybe like a little less and more like practical effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say the only time it bothered me was the barbed wire, where it felt very computery, especially as it was like coming towards the screen. The rest, I think I was kind of pretty much able to be like, 2006, you know what I mean? But that one,
liked the
I
barbed
felt
wire.
like I did not like the barbed wire, but it felt very not clip art, but it felt very like it was a
did
little
feel
too
3D movie for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, was this a 3D movie? And then I forgot to Google that, so I could do that right now if I wanted to. That would be weird though, totally for the rest of the film.
Right?
What was the other thing? Oh, I found the babies. Like everything else looked great. I think the pyramid head guy looked fucking great. The nurses looked great, but that was real people.
I think
Um,
Pyramid Head might have also been like practical a little bit.
It was at least a guy, but maybe
Yeah.
they CGI'd the pyramid or something. I'm not. I don't know, but they could have had that be practical too.
I like to think that they took a giant cheese head, like, the Wisconsin cheese head
Stop
Yeah.
dead.
and they made it like really big and then just like put it on his head and spray painted it gray.
Picture
Can we
this.
build a cage
The
for the
Wisconsin
biggest
cheese
cheese
head.
head you've ever seen?
but terrifying, like an evil cheese. Instead of all the joy you feel when you see the Wisconsin cheese head,
Cheese
the
head.
opposite of that, bad.
It's not the big
Existential
cheese,
dread.
it's the bad cheese.
That's so fucking funny. Yeah, I think, well, yeah, putting it all together, then, like, the only one that's like mostly CGI is the babies, is the burning
And they're really
babies.
bad.
And they look fucking awful. I'm so sorry.
They're
And the
so
bugs,
bad.
I guess, too, but I thought I liked the bugs.
The bugs are small enough and they're in the dark enough that like
and you
you're
only
just kind
see
of
one
like,
of them's face.
and so you're just kind of like, okay, it's 2006, but like, I don't know. I think they should have hired small children and put them
Lit them on
They should
fire.
have gotten real
Okay.
toddlers,
Yeah.
covered them in soot.
lit those bitches on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
will
no,
say-
I think that was hard too because it was the first one that you see, the first spooky
Yeah.
thing, and it was so bad that it kind of took me out of it for a second there. Sorry, Chelsea, you go.
Just speaking of soot, I do always love a snow or ash question mark moment in
Yeah.
a piece of media, and I thought they did that in a really fun way here, where like it looks like drifting snow. But if you've ever lived in Los Angeles, you know what that
Right.
really is. Like when it's like fat like that is
Yeah.
ash in the wind.
And I like how some of the ash like rises from the ground also. Like it'll fall down, but then it'll like come
Oh yeah,
up,
the
too.
anti-gravity
Back up.
thing that happens when it's like when it's bad time, otherworld time or whatever.
Darkness comes.
Darkness time. The snow ash thing that I thought was so good is in such stark contrast to all of the rain that was happening on a bright sunny day.
Well, but
which
that's
is so
also
funny. I mean, it happens sometimes, but it happened every time pretty much in this movie.
But that's something that I really liked too, was when you would like flash back to Sean Bean, it was, even if it was raining, it was still very sunny.
That's true.
And in the South, we do have a saying for that specific type of rain. And it says, like, if it's sunny when it's raining, the devil's beating his wife.
Well, I hate that, but there you go.
They're called golden showers.
That's worse.
Why would you say that, Chelsea? Leave the room.
Piss play. Piss play was in
piss.
2024. It's back in 2025, baby, according
I'm
to Chelsea.
dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. It's important. We hadn't brought up piss play yet this episode, so thank you so much. It was
Thank you so
important.
much,
It needed to
Chelsea.
be
I
done.
needed to cover our bases. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, real quick about Sheen Bean, real quick. He's so bad at doing all this stuff. He's like calls on the phone and he's like, "You need to tell me the police records from 1970." And they're like, "No."
"Sir."
And he's like, "You don't understand. You need to do it." And it's like incoherent. Oh, he's trying to do something. But then he like goes to the orphanage. He's like, "Oh, hey, I know you know something." He asks her 3 questions. Immediately he starts shaking her. So he's not really cool, calm, collected here, but he is a man alone and his family is under duress. So he's allowed to be upset, but he's not allowed to shake that woman. Okay.
I think his emotional state is also heightened by that moment in the hallway where he was like, I could sense her here. I could smell her perfume. Like she was
Yeah.
not just, we know that she drove her car through this gate, and so we know she was here. But also, like, I feel like she was right where I'm standing. I feel like she's here right now. Like, I think that's just like setting off like internal alarms for him. And that's why he has lost whatever grace he might have had to pursue this. And that's why Tony Gucci comes in and is like, I've met 12-year-old girls who are sneakier than you.
Dude.
Got his ass.
He
Got
got
him.
him so good. Okay, here's a question that I have. We haven't really gotten into the other characters besides our main ones yet, and we haven't even really talked about the budding romance, the lesbian romance that is
Oh,
very
yeah.
prominent in this film. But we'll have a whole segment for that if we want to wait. But with Gucci in particular, like with spoiler alert for later, all the rest of the characters that we see in Silent Hill, like in the gray fog area, they all like died 30 years ago, right? And they're in limbo. And that's the whole thing with this movie
Their
is
souls
that
are trapped.
their souls are trapped. They think that they are living some really fucked up fucking life. They think they're living
They think it's-
post-apocalypse.
Yeah, they think it's a post-apocalyptic thing.
So interesting.
She
But
brought
then
the end of days.
Mhm.
what the fuck is the deal with Gucci? Because this was one thing that I couldn't figure out. I didn't really see an answer in what I learned about the games, so maybe it is answered in the games. But like this all happened in
1974
1974
or something like that.
and now it is what
2006.
2006. Yeah, or 2000 whatever. They have a cell phone. There's a cell phone for sure. So it has to be Y2K because just because they're dressed a certain way, whatever. They have a
Yeah.
cell phone though. That so
They
Yeah.
have
the
cell phone.
way they have
It's
cell
a
phone. Yes, please show your
Nokia.
prop,
Hello?
girl.
Yeah, this
My
is my
favorite
prop.
thing about this movie is that she has a lanyard with the cell phone the whole time.
Exactly.
That is the best. And the
That way you don't
costuming
lose it,
is so
girl.
funny in this. It's so I
Just
love
running
her
around
outfit.
in her little skirt, my
And
adventure
white
her
skirt.
Y2K.
knee-high boots.
Yes,
Everybody's
those
got
are
the
cute
leather boots, and I think that was really to their benefit, and in this setting, as it turns
Yeah.
out.
And she looked cunty, so it's so important.
Mhm.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so there's that long flashback scene that we get. It shows like Alessa is saying like, oh, there were some good people too who tried to help, and it shows Gucci. Unless it's fucking Gucci's dad, in which case step in and tell me it was Gucci's dad. But it shows Gucci picking up her body, taking her off of the like whatever thing they had, the like insignia for the cult that she was like strapped up against when they burned her fucking alive. And he burns his hands. That how he has those scars that he shows Sheen Bean later. And so it's definitely the same guy, but he like looks the same age. Like he didn't age right. Did anybody
Well,
else notice that? He like
But
it's
none of
literally
them.
it's like I know, but they're in limbo. He's not. He's not in limbo. He's out in the real world. So why hasn't he aged?
Yeah, but
that-
also think about like Sharon. Like if this was in
I know that doesn't make sense either.
1970 and they're in this and she's what, like 11? Know what I mean? Or like however old she is. Like
I know the
the
timeline
nine,
doesn't
I
make
think.
any fucking
timelines
sense.
don't make any
It
sense.
doesn't make any sense at fucking all. I think that's like a huge plot hole unless there's something I just don't know. And that could be very true because there's so much lore with this movie. But like where did that time go? He's obviously one of the good ones, so he got to live his life outside of limbo. He wasn't punished by Alessa, but like what is happening? Chelsea, you have the floor.
I think you can make an argument that time passes differently in Silent Hill, in the mist and the ash, especially with the darkness coming. And that I finished reading this book recently that I talked about in the Discord a little. It's called like The Haunting of Velkwood, and that was very relevant for Silent Hill. And so I would recommend reading that book if
Time
anybody wants to.
passing.
It's like a whole street becomes a ghost, basically.
Yeah.
So the like ghost town
Oh,
aspect of
that
this
sounds
movie,
cool.
yeah, was like they were talking. But I think it's very possible that time passes differently inside than it does outside. Clearly, you can go in. I wonder if he was a child back in the day. I don't know why, because I didn't notice that he was the guy in the flashback, like
It's
you were
him.
saying.
It's
No, no, no.
100%. It's him.
I hear you. I didn't notice that. So I thought that they were child contemporaries, him and Alessa. I'm wondering now if he came back in later as an adult, like for example, when this child got thrown down the mine shaft. And while he was in town as an adult was when he was like went and removed her body and was like giving her a proper doing whatever, blah blah. Obviously, again, time is different there, so she gets hooked up in the hospital. But the baby being made of her goodness,
They don't give us
that could
any of
be
that.
something that, yeah, I mean, maybe
This
that
is
is
where it
again
doesn't
game
stand
lore.
alone for me as a movie because it doesn't
The
like
timelines
make
don't
sense.
fully
It
add
doesn't.
up.
But That
make
leap to me that I'm making right now makes sense for why he would be an adult removing her, and why the baby would be 9 years old now in the world, even though what happened in Silent Hill was 30 years before, is just like the timeline of what's happening in Silent Hill is not happening on the same timeline as what happens in the real world.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to have seen evidence of that to make it more plain, but we don't ever get Rose and Alessa slash Sharon coming out of Silent Hill. At the end of the movie, they're still there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just that like
so we
that world
can't
has
tell.
extended.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that, I thought I was so happy I caught that quote. I thought it was so interesting because we have the character Dahlia in this movie who is Alessa's mother, and she is cast out from the church because she had a baby out of wedlock. We find out later, whatever. And she just like is out here spouting wise truths. She's out here speaking truths, okay? But that quote is so interesting. Only the Dark One opens and closes the door to Silent Hill. Like I totally didn't catch it at all at the first time, but like because by at the end of this movie, Alessa and Sharon are combined as one once again. And it's not even just Alessa and Sharon because it's more complicated than that. What we find out is that like Alessa, the young innocent girl who is normal and not a devil, is burned by this cult because they think that she's a witch because they've been burning witches for 1 billion years and people
They're the
they
elders of their elders.
their elders of their elders were protecting them by burning witches, whatever. It's a town founded on witch burning, okay? And they keep their traditions strong. And so they do that to her under the ploy of cleansing her after she was molested by that janitor, which is so fucked up. It's so fucked up
Yeah.
that they switch it around like that. Oh God, I didn't realize that at first watch either that was exactly the reasoning why. Anyway, and then they fucking burn her at the not at the stake at the circle.
Yeah.
But it backfires and she knocks over the pyre and that's what leads
Fire
to this
doesn't
hellish
cleanse,
fire.
it blackens.
Yes. So yeah, there's so many good like one-liners like that. But she doesn't die. Alessa doesn't die. And Gucci, very young Gucci or same age Gucci, we don't know, is the one that takes her off of that and takes her to the hospital where she is recovering in a hyperbaric chamber to try to heal her wounds. That's what that is, that like thing. Probably like an old-fashioned version, but like they put you in a like oxygenated space and like where it's like extra oxygen than you would have in normal air and it helps your wounds heal faster. So that's what she was in. That's what that little shroud thing is. And she just started becoming filled with like insane hate because like fair. She's like in isolation. She is a little innocent child and she's been fucking burned by crazy people. And then she's filled with this hatred and hatred and hatred. And because she's filled with so much hatred, that opens her heart to this demon. We don't really find out who they are, but
The
like
subtitles on what I watched called it Dark Alessa.
Dark
Mhm.
Alessa, the dark one. Yeah. So she says like I've gone by many names, but for all intents and purposes, let's just call me Alessa's dark side. Like she
Right. Dun
literally
dun
says almost
dun.
verbatim that. And so there's three players here. There's like this demon thing that like could be like fucking Baphomet for all we know, could be the devil, it could be just one of the devil's many henchmen, comes and bonds with Alessa and takes her anger, and that creates the new Silent Hill, the fog world that you can only enter when the Dark One, which is Alessa now combined with this demon, allows you to, but essentially trapping all of those zealots that put her in this position in the first place, putting them in purgatory.
I'm on
Um,
the Silent Hill wiki right now,
yeah.
and I was like looking into Dahlia, right? Because like
Mhm.
she's kind of like she's the bad guy in the games.
I know, right? Isn't that so weird?
Yeah, like she's the one who like what's her name in the movie?
Oh, she doesn't even
Alice?
exist,
No, the
right?
main guy, the
No,
main
hold on one
the
second.
what's her name?
Christabella.
Yeah,
Slay name.
Christabella
Oh.
is Dahlia. Like she's basically her mom. Her mom
The lady in the
runs the
blue
cult.
cloak. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's
Yeah.
like abusing her cuz she's trying to like bring their religious god back to create a paradise and it goes wrong.
Yeah, so the cult lore is way more robust and confusing, and that's more of the focus of the game from what I read from Leo, and it just seems it was more robust than I was prepared to understand because I haven't played the game. But the cult's like it's like it's called like the Order or something.
Yeah.
In the movie it's the Brethren. Um, so
Like
it's very different.
Did you
but like
But
recognize Christabella though? Do you know what she's from?
yeah. What is she from? I recognized her face, but I was like,
she
I
plays
gotta look it
another
up.
witch in something, doesn't she? Like
She plays the mom in The Little Vampire, the vampire mom, but also she is Queen Helena in the A Christmas Prince movies on Netflix.
oh my god.
But
Oh my
the
God.
little vampire mom was definitely where I recognized her from. Freya.
Well, she's also in the OA, which I watched.
Yeah.
And she was in the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie from 2022 that everybody hated, but I had fun because I was like, yeehaw, what the fuck is this? So I think I remember her face from that. That is so funny.
I
That's
wonder
actually so.
why
This
they
also has
decided
Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. The
a
the
little bit,
Y2K
yeah.
one. Just tonally, scenically, the coloring. Not the
Now
OG.
I really want to know why they decided to make Dahlia like a victim a little bit or
I
like very
wonder,
sympathetic in
they're
the
doing
I
like
have
a
an
movie.
mommy
idea.
parallel
Yes,
thing with
that's what I was just gonna
Rose.
say. They because they turned Harry into a woman, they're doing this mommy thing because there's that thing to a daughter, a mother is a god. They say that all
Yeah.
the time. I don't really know what I can't tell you what the whole point is,
Are you saying
but
we
they're
could
trying to
have
do
done
something.
this for Mommy Issues May?
Whoa.
I
Let's run
wasn't
it
ready
back.
then. I'm
Run
not
it
ready
back.
now, and I wasn't ready then. Also, I just have to say this. Christabella was also Morgana in The Sorcerer's Apprentice, the 2010 Jay Baruchel and Nicolas Cage movie that I love so much. So that's also what I know her from. That was like one of my favorite movies in high school. So
Also, the
love
cop is
Alice
from
Krieg
Sons of
or
Anarchy. Oh, that's why I thought her name was Alice, because I was looking at her IMDb.
yeah, she's iconic. She's very good at being a spooky, witchy, evil thing because Morgana is a witch as well. So she's very good at that. But yeah, I think that's a very confusing change. I can understand why some of the fans from the game would be like kind of set adrift by this movie because they just made some like seemingly confusing and unnecessary changes that would just piss them off.
Yeah, I think
But
it's one of those things with adaptations where they're like, we still want you as the viewer and as a fan to have surprises in this movie. We still want to be able to like show you so we don't want to just give you a story that you know before, which both like pisses people off who want like an authentic
yeah,
adaptation. But I could see
like
why they would be like, oh, if she's the villain, let's introduce her as someone spooky, scary, and then we'll present her in a new light actually as the story goes on, and like whether
it's
that's
just a
successful or
huge
not is up to the
departure.
viewer, but
It's so interesting because you can't make anyone happy. Like, I don't know who I was talking to about The Last of Us who'd played the game. I fucking love
mm-hmm.
that show. I haven't played the game, so I just came in doing
not
my own
not
thing.
game heads over here so much other than Tiffany,
I'm
I
not a game
guess.
head. I won't even claim that at all. But they were saying that like they loved the episode, if you are familiar with the show, the queer episode, because they took something that was in the game and they expanded it into a whole thing that was much larger than what it had in the game, and they loved that. But then they were pissed because the rest of the show was kind of just like verbatim what happens in the game. And I was like, that's so interesting to me. So they wanted it to not be the game. They wanted it to be more than the game. So some people want it to be more than the game and to expand on it and do something different. Some people want it. And I can understand that. If you're doing a dramatization, you can kind of like flesh out some stuff that maybe is not fleshed out in a game. But also, games are very fleshed out from what I've
Yeah.
seen in the games that I have played. Like, you're spending fucking like 75,000 hours. That's not true. You're spending a lot of hours
A
in
lot
this
of
world.
hours.
And there's
Yeah.
a lot of little things in there. So it's interesting. I think
But
he did a good
storytelling
job
games
of
like
the
this-
tone, but he changed the story a lot. So whatever. That's okay with me.
Yeah, storytelling games like this I think can be so difficult because I think you were saying there are a bunch of different possible endings in
Yeah.
the game, and so it's like you can't tell one faithful story if there's like 7 stories to work from technically. Sometimes you do have a game that's like you're gonna have the exact same, not the exact same playthrough necessarily, but like every beat is gonna be the same no matter how many times you play it, and it's just like defeating the boss or the monster of that moment or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
just have to, it's one game but you play through, and then there are other things where it's like if you play as this character is different, if you play as this character it's different, you can go to the right or left and that's going to hugely influence what the story is. And so I think those things are great for gameplay because it means you can play a game over and over and over again, and it's like fun and new and interesting and reveals something additional each time,
Mhm.
but makes for a very difficult job to be like, and what's the version we're gonna do?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's interesting. It's so interesting. I kind of want to play this now or watch someone play it. Anyone who knows how to use the controller, because I always do it wrong.
I
I'll sit and I'll
never
watch you play.
know how to do that.
I move my head the wrong way. I've said this on the pod a million times. I always end up looking at the sky or the ground. And then
Oh
I
my
get shot,
God,
and
I
then
did try to
die.
play the Last of Us game and it was so hard. I was like, what do you mean I have to be in control of where I'm walking, but also where I'm looking?
That
Like,
is
point
the
me
hardest.
what
I can't do both. See, certified
It's
non-game
too many
heads over
things.
here.
I tried. I'm a sore loser though, also, so that was a big part of
Oh,
my
I'm
problem. I was
also
like,
sore
I don't want
loser.
to die 75 times before I learn how to pick up a water bottle. Like, I'm over it, actually.
It's hard. It's hard out there. I feel your plight. I feel your pain.
I was good at like computer games back in the day. Give me the arrow keys and a mouse, and that's enough. But once you're adding in all kinds of buttons, I just am in over my head.
That's my thing. I'm down to play computer games. I
like
don't
I
want to
loved
play
computer games.
video
Pajama
games.
Sam, let's go. Putt
Like,
Putt saves the zoo. Let's go.
Barbie makeover. Let's go.
I had like an underwater Barbie detective one back in the day.
What?
I had a Barbie horse one, which absolutely tracks for me. So
90s game heads. That's it.
Yeah.
90s CD-ROM game
computer
heads.
gamer
I had
girls
all the
right
Harry
here.
Potter games back in the day. That's like my touch point for playing games. It's like you beat
Mine was
the
the
troll
Nintendo.
or whatever, but like there's not
The
options of
DS.
like what to do, you know?
I had Duck Hunt back in the day. I'm a gamer head.
She's
I
a
had
game head.
Britney's Dance Beats on the Nintendo DS. So pretty
DDR,
exciting.
that's the kind of game we could.
It was literally the
maybe play.
hand one though. So you had to like press A, B, C, whatever to make her dance.
Yeah. Look,
I
I'm
was
out
really
here
bad at
playing Cooking Craze on my phone, okay? So I'm pretty legit, but
My skill level ends at Pac-Man. So and I die in Pac-Man a lot, but I do love it. But anyway, okay, a character we haven't touched on at all is Anna.
Mhm.
And I'm not so enthralled by her. I'm mostly enthralled by her death.
Right.
But I thought that was an interesting intro into the whole weird religious cult thing.
Yeah.
But her death was just so slay. I mean, thank God they brought Pyramid Head in just for that scene in particular. I did like his big knife and then almost the sexy moment where Sybil shows back up and saves Rose's life
Mhm.
earlier,
Mhm.
and then you get to see the little bug man, and then you also get Pyramid Head. Oh my God, it's so much. There's gay shit. There's fucking Pyramid Head. There's a little man who's also a horseshoe crab. It's overwhelming.
There's a
That
little man
was-
who's also a bug.
Yeah. Anna's presence was evidence to me more of the gay behaviors between Sybil and Rose, because it was like Sybil's like, "Oh, let me help you through this doorway. Let me help you down this beam or whatever." She was not interested in helping Anna. She was not
Not at
helping Anna
all.
at all. She's like, I'm helping Rose, and that's my girl, and I don't really give a shit about this bitch."
The vibes are so there. That is what
Mhm.
saved this movie for me. I was very compelled. I was just mad that there wasn't more time with them together because they were so focused
Yeah.
on it being mommy story. And so, and also Sybil's in the game. So maybe this is canonically what happens with Sybil, that she gets beat to shit and burned on fire, which was horrific to watch. That was really hard.
Tough.
That was tough. Classic bury your gays. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. She just happens to die and she has a short little cunty haircut.
When
Okay.
you said you were so excited when she took off her helmet, and I was like, oh, I wonder why. But Ryan had already told me that the cop and the mom were giving gay vibes. And then when she took off her helmet and I saw her short dykey hair, I did love it. I
was
loved
like-
the dykey hair reveal.
So good. And also
It
I
literally
had
took
thought
my
she
breath
was
away.
Yeah. Because I had thought she was so weird before. She was giving like I don't know. She was reminding me of like the cop from Terminator or something. That's like he's fake or something like that. I don't know. She was giving me this like weird vibe where she didn't seem like a real person was underneath all that stuff
Mm.
because she was acting so strangely. Because like I said earlier, I didn't know her motivations for being so sussed out by
A
Rose
kid
and
approaching
Sharon.
Silent Hill. A
Yeah.
strange
Well,
child.
well, not even that. They were just at the gas station. That's what I'm talking about.
But they're
the
so
kid was just-
nearby.
yeah, but they were just in the gas station. Like, they weren't
Right.
even doing anything weird at all. They just were driving there.
Getting gas.
I
And so
think
she was
the
so
implication.
suspicious, but it made sense once I found out that she had the past experience with the
Yeah.
child who was abducted. So that's what I was saying. That was my point earlier, that like that made it seem more normal. But I was like, what the fuck is this character? Is this why is she acting this way? I don't understand. She's being weird and I can't see her face. And so it just felt strange to me. And so then she took off her helmet. I saw she was real and real hot. Save the movie.
Monica did say she wanted leather pants after watching this movie. So
I think it'd be really uncomfortable because I just got so hot in that leather jacket.
they
Imagine
would
how
be
my
so
legs.
sticky.
Oh, in Los Angeles, leather pants.
Maybe
Maybe
West
last
Virginia,
week.
but
That's
Maybe
right.
last
No,
week,
West
but
Virginia
not
is
this week.
humid.
Ooh, oh my God, leather
not
pants.
an always
humidity.
winter town.
I'm gonna throw up at the idea of leather
Like-
pants and humidity.
Think your ass is swamped. That's some swamp ass.
Nobody wants swamp ass. It's
Well, nobody
not good.
wants it, but sometimes you have to have it to wear leather
Sometimes
pants.
you just get it.
I don't know if I'll go.
You
down
know
gotta
that
when you
road.
commit
are
to the bit.
swimming and you have to go to the bathroom and then you have to pull your wet bathing
Oh,
suit back up?
Oh, the worst.
Ah, why would
The
you bring up
worst.
the true horrors of life on our horror podcast? We're
Here's the
trying to
thing.
keep it in fiction.
All you have to do is pull your swimsuit to the side so you're not pulling it and rolling it.
Hack.
Yeah.
Unless you're
Life
wearing boy
hack.
shorts, in which case a little more difficult.
All bikini bottoms should be thong bikini bottoms. So I want ass out. I want to see cheeks, you know?
I love that for you. It's a great desire. Is that part of your presidential campaign?
No, that's
platform?
just something my mom, every time I get a bikini, she's like, why are your bathing suit bottoms so conservative? You'll have horrible tan lines in these. So
Helen.
my mom is
She's
a
making
Queen.
points.
my mom
Hot
was
bitch alert.
my mom was in her 20s in the 80s. That bitch
So
like wore
She knows
nothing.
what's up. She knows
I've
what's up.
seen society in the bathing suits they wore.
Exactly. I have a couple of her old bathing suits. They are a little obscene.
Love. Okay, what else do you guys want to chat about in this? We've kind of jumped all around, but we're getting
Oh.
closer to the end.
With the barbed wire, I thought it was like a really clear reference to Evil Dead when it like pops up her
Yup. Hated
hated that.
Why do they always have to
I
do
was like,
that?
why that? But I was just like, ugh. Barbed
Again,
wire? Oof.
that is tonally the like Y2K take
I
it one
know.
step kind of thing that I don't like. But I did like when it went through there and popped out of her chest and it was like
Just
going all around. That part looked cool. I didn't
ripped
like
her in
that
I
half.
would have
the entrance, but I liked the exit path.
rather her maybe like scream. Like what
Oh,
they
it
should
went
have
down her
done
throat.
is they should have wrapped it like kind of around her neck and she could have screamed and then they could have like tightened it a little bit and then went down her throat and popped out and then ripped her in half.
Yeah.
And that
They
would
just wanted to do
have
something
been more
super dramatic, I
meaningful
guess.
because she's using her whole thing is like her influence. She's the way
Yeah.
she can speak and influence people and get them to do what she says. It's not about her using her vagina for anything.
Yeah.
Men.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe it's just it was trying to be a thing because the reason that Dahlia and Alessa were ostracized in the beginning was because Dahlia had sex out of wedlock, and
And didn't know who
so
her father was.
Maybe. I
Yeah.
think she's self-spawning, and I think Alessa also self-spawned Sharon.
Yeah,
So.
it was immaculate conception.
yeah, that shit's so confusing. I mean, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't. But it was like she put
Right? 'Cause, like,
everyone
did-
into yeah, what were you gonna say?
Like they were like, oh yes, and this is her baby, but did she like birth a baby or did they like rip out like because
She
she was
separated out
assaulted
her
by
purity.
the janitor? Know what I mean? So
Oh no!
Like-
no!
so that
No!
was like
I think it is not her
No.
biological child. I think it's sort of like a holy
Right.
trinity in reverse thing
Yeah.
of like there's Alessa and there's Dark Alessa and there's this baby that grew up and got named Sharon.
that's
I
kind of
think-
what I was thinking, but then I also had that thing, and I was like,
Horrible thought and had to
Like
say it
the-
out loud.
like
and we
the
all had to-
way-
yeah.
well, the
I see
way
what you're
that they-
saying.
The way
see the
that they
connection.
said it a little bit, I was like,
Well,
Eh?
I think it makes sense that it's a baby too. I understand why you thought that. That could make sense too. I'm hoping it's not that because everything is on.
yeah, I
Like, this
really
I'd
like to
don't.
say
It's
I
not.
really
yeah.
don't want
I'm
to
deciding
be
it's
right.
not.
If
It's
it's up
actually
to
not
me,
that.
we're not doing that.
It's not happening.
that because it makes sense that it was a baby. Because if you're thinking of like, if the baby is supposed to be all of the good things of Alessa that were left in her, then that makes sense that it would be her innocence. And what is the most innocent thing that exists? A
A
newborn
tiny
child.
little baby.
A baby.
Exactly. So I
Actually,
think that's
wrong.
why it was. a
Everybody's
baby.
born with sin, Monica.
Okay,
It
I don't
really
wanna hear
depends on your version of
religious shit.
Christianity. Okay, Sydney.
I mean, I'm not a Christian, so
Don't come in here and proselytize about your Christianity. We already have to
Whoa,
deal with
whoa,
this,
whoa.
Christabella, not your Christianity.
Not
I know.
whoa, take that back right now.
I just like to get in trouble now. Last week, now this week, I'm
Scotch,
calling you a Christian.
Monica,
Last week I
hot
called you
scotch.
dumb. This week
How
I called
dare you call me a Christian? How
I didn't
dare?
call you dumb. I called the one thing you said dumb, and then today I'm calling you a Christian.
Hopscotch, Monica.
Wow. She's doing some real slander on this
I
podcast.
am wearing a Karen fucking wig, so I'm on my
Doing
evil
Kate
bullshit.
Gosselin.
This is Dark Monica speaking. Yeah. Remember that part though when Anna got her skin ripped off? That was sick.
Mhm.
That was really cool.
When
And
it
then-
stripped all of her clothes off in one go and then just kept pulling.
And then they
The way it,
plug
like,
it at the door.
Because at first when they just made her
squeezed
naked, I
it.
was like, yuck. And then when they
Yeah.
just pulled her skin off also, I was like, well,
Yum.
I was like, okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yuki.
I wouldn't do it that way, but I'm not a big, buff, sexy Wisconsin cheese,
Cheese
but
head.
evil head man.
Evil cheese head.
Oh my God. Yeah, I do think one thing that everyone can agree on, though, is that young little Brie Tanner baby, what's her name? Jodelle Ferland. I thought she was so good in this movie, and I
Yeah.
think she did such a great job like distinguishing between which version of whatever the fuck she was, because she was playing like 4 different characters in this almost. Like she's Sharon, she's the dark entity that is separate from Alessa, she's Alessa, and then she's the combo pack at the end. And I think
And
she does a
she's
She
good job
bedridden
also
of being
Alessa
distinct.
also.
Oh yeah, well
Because like
that's
she's
Alessa still.
flashback Alessa, like the little girl, and then she's like
mm.
burnt bedridden one.
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
little facial acting in that is like pretty good. She does some like fun little smirks.
Yeah, but she does so well, like once she becomes evil again. I don't know. I just her mannerisms, like physicality changes. I think she does a really good job. And she's also just the cutest little bean ever. So I loved her in it. But yeah, I think the ending maybe, are we ready for that? Are we ready to talk about the ending? We can talk
Yes.
about more gay
Well,
things
I
in our
did.
gay segment.
Yeah, I liked when Dark Alessa embraced Rose and then like became part of Rose,
Yeah.
darkness within Rose, and that was what allowed her to like enter into the church because she hadn't been
Mhm.
able to before. She would have gotten rid of all those bitches long time
Long
ago.
time, yeah.
But I thought that was a cool, interesting detail of how they
Yeah.
snuck her in.
Also, I thought that when Christabella stabs Rose literally in the heart,
Yeah.
and but then instead of that killing Rose, it like releases Alessa out, and like the way the like blood came out of her and like went up and stuff, like did anti-gravity thing like things
And
tend
then
to do.
dissolved the floor.
Yes. And like turned it into like the other world thing.
Well,
Like,
you kind of got to
oh,
see because like you saw that like it was like a callback to the very beginning when like Sharon is standing at the cliff and you look down and you kind of see vaguely, and then when Rose was looking down, it looked exactly like that.
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, totally. Yeah. It's that was cool. It's just such an interesting story. It's so multifaceted. It's hard to put a it was hard for me to know what was even going on. I was like, am I stupid or it's just really complicated? And it's a little bit of both.
I liked the road at the end though, when they were finally leaving. That part felt very the cabin in the woods where it's like it's not that you can't leave, it's that it's like keeping you there, but it is actually just an illusion maybe, blah blah. I don't know. I thought it was interesting that it was like you just drive through. I mean, obviously they didn't really get out. But
Yeah.
that they're approaching and it looks like the cliff and it looks like it still stops and maybe somebody else would be like, we can't go this way because there's no road. But it's like if you just keep going, the road is gonna present itself.
Well, I think it's only like that because the dark one's in the car and she's letting them out
She's
or
sucking her thumb.
extending. She's
She's having
sucking
a
her
little nap.
thumb and she's extending the
Road.
no, like, not extending the road, extending the scope of Silent Hill so it can reach all the way back to where they live
Which is
because they're
Ohio.
still in the
Is
fog
it?
Yeah.
all the way in Ohio.
Like they drive because like their license plate, I immediately clocked it as Ohio plates, and then Sean
Oh, they
Bean
Mm.
like,
referenced that too. Yeah.
and then like Sean Bean says something like blah 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 Ohio, and I was like, I
The
was
Jeep with
correct. I know
Ohio
my
plates.
license plate.
Iconic. Yeah, I think so. This is where I already had a little contention with Mr. Leo, the source of this episode, in the Discord about this. But this final scene, and I'm not alone in thinking this because I looked it up, but apparently game heads don't agree with the theory that I had. And so I think I had this theory because I'm not a game head and didn't come in with the Silent Hill knowledge that others might have. But like it comes to the end of the movie and they come home and they open the door and you see this juxtaposition between what they see and what Sean Bean is seeing in his own home because he's also there. It's a sunny day where he is. It's a
And it's raining
gloomy
again.
and it's raining. It's a gloomy day where Rose and Sharon are. It's still that nasty fog. Everything's gray. And they're in the same place, but they're not together. And it's weird because it's almost like we already know that these two realms, whatever they may be, do touch each other in some way because Sean Bean could smell Rose's perfume through whatever this veil is. And then in this scene, we have the
The
door
door
opening.
opens.
They open the door. They could affect the world in some way. So they're close, but they're not quite there. And you also have that little scene where little Sharon slash Alessia slash Dark Demon thing breaks the fourth wall as she walks away and stares directly in the camera with this fucking terrifying look on her face. And it leaves Rose by herself sitting on the couch looking exactly where Sean Bean is sleeping, but he's not actually there. And so for me, when I watched this movie, watching that last part and then thinking back to it, especially as they were leaving too, it made me think this too. I thought maybe, and this is where Leo got mad at me, they died in the car accident, and so did Sybil. And that's what led them into, or died or were severely injured enough where they would enter into the purgatory realm that is Silent Hill. So that would go against some of the theories we've had earlier on in this episode. And I'm not saying this is totally correct, but like, Sybil also had a car crash. She has this blood. That's why I have this blood right now. I'm not injured in case you're very confused. And like Rose smashes her head into the steering wheel really hard and like loses time.
Yeah.
So they've had this whole journey, but like it was real in the sense that the purgatory is real, whatever. I'm not saying that it was all a dream or some fucking shit. But like it seems to have been happening like outside. It is definitely happening outside of reality and outside of the world that we live in. And so are they in purgatory? Did they die in that situation? Like what happened there? Because we don't know why Sybil got into that wreck either. There we don't see that happen. And so Leo was mad at me for that because you can get out of Silent Hill in the games, and I can't explain to you why,
How are we
but
supposed to
or
know?
how or when, but you can get out, so it doesn't necessarily mean you're dead if you're in there, which is true and so totally fair. So it could also just be Alessa being like, "No, we're not leaving yet, because I'm in charge." Alessa slash Sharon slash the Dark One or whatever the fuck deciding because she's the one who decides when you can enter or leave Silent Hill, according to that quote from Dahlia. So maybe she just wants to stay in this place where she can be all three at once. I don't know, but that was just a theory that I had. That's what it seemed like it was trying to tell me, but I don't know.
The sense that I got, again, to go back to the time passing differently, is that it could just be like they were there too long. I know they said Sybil with the child dropped down the mine shaft. She was there with the child at the whatever it was for 3 days. But I think you can kind of, I mean, you have to decide, but the fact that Salon Baton would go all of this way to West Virginia to be like chasing after his family and like know that they went in there, and then Tony Gucci is just like, we don't see him, and he's just like, okay, well, I went to the orphanage and I did my research and I still didn't come up with anything helpful, so I'm just gonna go home to Ohio. Like the fact that he doesn't stick around, I think you can read into that a lot more time has passed in the real world than it seems like watching them in Silent Hill. Um, I think if this movie was made today, it would be one of those things where it's like the movie ends and then they start playing a song that's really jarring, and that song would be Hotel California. I think it's one of those things possibly where it's just like they spent too long in the world and the world started to claim them.
But that
Also-
doesn't explain the door opening because they're at the same point in time because they open the door and the door opens. I'm sorry. I see what you're saying, and I think it's a viable option. But I don't. For me, it doesn't explain that moment because that's like a crossover moment where they're there at the same time because she opened the door and she left it open, which I thought was weird. I was like, I guess they don't have a cat. And then it's still open right then. You know what I mean? Like that to me is trying to say that they're in the same place at the same time, but they're not actually in the same place at the same time because they can't interact with each other. They're on
It's
other
like
sides of whatever
overlapping
this veil is.
parallel.
Yeah, they're on two sides of the veil. Whatever that may be. I don't fucking know.
I think it's okay, not to Sydney, I don't think has seen Presence, but I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like ghost time just doesn't pass the same. So they can be there in the same moment and not the same time has passed otherwise. I think it is clear that things bleed through a little like with the perfume. They're not in the same parallel planes, kind of. You know what I mean? They can't touch each other, but that doesn't mean that there
Yeah.
not overlap. And so I
I
think the
just
door is just there to show that like the, they're out of reach, but they're not disconnected.
Yeah, I think that I think that that could be a good explanation of the time passing differently, but they didn't give us jack shit with that, and so I don't want to give them that credit. It's like the Tulpa thing with it's always I'll always know what you did last summer. Like that would solve so many problems, but like that's you writing it because you are really good at writing, and I wish you had come in and fixed the movie for me because I would love to have had that be an aspect of it, but I just don't see it in I don't see evidence of it in the movie for me. But I wish that it was in there for me because I think that makes it make a lot more sense. Specifically the Gucci thing, which pisses me off so much because
Yeah,
it doesn't
I
make
did
any
not
fucking
notice
sense.
that, so I can't really account for that. I came up with a theory
Well,
best as I could in the
no,
moment,
I know,
but
but the Gucci thing
The Gucci of it
Mhm.
all.
what your thing explains the Gucci thing, but then it's still confusing because like why is he out? Why is he it? Was he ever in? Was he in the purgatory thing? They tried to make it seem like he's one of the good ones or whatever in that flashback. But again, we just don't get a ton of information. So it's interesting. They made a lot of changes to the original story and they did their own thing. And I think that a lot of it works, but not all of it
I
totally
wonder if there's a
makes sense.
novelization of this movie. Because that's the kind
Yeah.
of thing that could give a lot more like exposition and background and explaining like what they're trying to make you as the audience
Yeah.
understand in this scene without being so explicit.
And honestly, I want to open it up to the listeners. Like, if you've played the game and you understand aspects of this that we can't possibly understand because we haven't played it, I'd honestly love to hear it. Because I just like, I don't totally understand how it all fits together. And they obviously made so many changes from the game, but also maybe there's something there that explains it that is in one of the 5 games, or I think there's 4. Yes, Chelsea?
One thought that I have that's not necessarily connected to anything else, but I want to throw it out there just so if anybody who knows more can say that's stupid or oh my God, you're brilliant, maybe. But I thought it was interesting. They had the sexy nurses, obviously, but then they also had the red nurse who cares for Alessa in her hospitalized state. And I thought it was interesting that Sharon leaves as Alessa or more of Alessa maybe than she came in as. And that Rose comes in wearing like lilac. But she's completely red by the time she goes out. Obviously, she's been like covered in blood throughout the movie, but I felt like she's taking on the role of the red nurse now who cares for her as they move away from Silent Hill. I don't know if there's something to that or not, but it was a thought that I had.
That's cool.
Also,
Yeah.
Chelsea brought up Hotel California, and I would just like to bring up the absolute banging idea to have Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash in this movie.
Oh, that was
There was
awesome.
a good song in this movie. Wasn't
It was
was
Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought you were
There,
saying my idea is to have Ring of Fire in this
No.
movie, and I was like, wait,
no,
wasn't
it was
there
in it.
something?
No, no,
I
no.
understand now.
Yeah.
Like when because it's like right after the demon children, right? And then she like kind of blacks out a little bit and wakes up, and you just hear I fell into a burning ring of fire. And you're just like,
Mhm.
that is such a
Down,
song.
down, down.
So
Flames
appropriate.
went higher.
Real quick, back to what you were saying about that one nurse though.
The red nurse.
I would love to know more about that nurse too, because like in the flashback, it says there was even a point where Alessa, when she was still Alessa, was becoming so hateful that she even hurt an innocent. And so you don't see her hurt that, but it is that nurse. That's who they're talking about. She hurt the innocent nurse, and it is that red nurse. So we don't
'Cause she
see
was
what
curious.
actually happens just because she was curious. Yeah. We don't see what actually happens, but we do see her as that specter in the room with the hyperbaric chamber crying. And then it shows her face, or you hear her crying, and then it finally shows her face, and it looks like her face was like cut all around, and her eye, and she was
Eyes are,
blinded.
yeah.
Yeah, they're at least, I don't know if they were taken out because there's blood all around them, but like she has eyes, but they're just all white, and she's blind, and she's crying blood tears. So we don't really find out what Alessa, or I don't know exactly when her and Dark Entity #1 combined. But yeah, I don't know. That was something interesting to another one of the like million billion things that is happening in this movie. We don't like really find out exactly. Um I think that's another reason why it's like hard for me, because there's just like all of these things happening, and there's no explanation for like half of them unless you watched the unless you played the game for some of it. Like I guess it does make sense that those babies, burning babies, were the children that were mean to her because they're in the school, but like that is
How are we
like
supposed to know? We don't,
a leap, you know? I can see it. I can totally see it. That makes sense. But like
but we
I
don't
wouldn't
know
have
about
noticed
those until the end.
unless someone told me about it. You know what I mean? So it's just I feel like there's a lot. They're just like they're including like a bunch of things, and they're like lore, and it's like not all coming together for me. Um, but again, it could just come from my lack of knowledge. But again, I'm watching this movie, and I should be able to watch this movie, you know,
Yeah.
even if I didn't play the game.
I think it is a valid choice to say there are going to be things in here that our game playing audience are going to understand and recognize, and those same things are just going to be cool set dressing to a viewer who
Fair.
hasn't played the game.
I agree.
But yeah, if it's meant to have a deeper meaning in a way that affects the story, that didn't come through.
Yeah, it's like hard to tell what they're just trying to be cunty about and what was meaningful and progresses the plot. And I still don't know. And I watched it twice, but second time again, not paying full attention. So that's on me, I guess. But anyway, are we ready for our
Vegamuntos?
It's time to ask the age-old question, how could this movie be gayer? And my God, thank God it is. Thank God it's gay. I needed that. I needed that in this dark, literally dark drab setting. We had one
needed
rainbow
gay.
flag flying, 2 rainbow flags flying. That's why they sidelined Sheen Bean, because there was such natural chemistry between Sybil and Rose, and they couldn't have him involved in that. They needed space.
To explore her gay side. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they were for sure giving gay. And I loved it, and I was rooting for them. And maybe there is still room for them to be gay together, since Rose didn't exactly return to her husband in the traditional sense. And seems like a
That
lot of
pesky
people
veil's in the way.
who yeah, yeah, and like it seems like, I mean, dying in Silent Hill seems bad, but maybe it's not so permanent necessarily. I think there is room for Alessa to realize the potential lesbian joy that Sybil could bring to her mom, who is God to her. And then she could say, "You deserve to be happy too, mommy." And Sybil comes riding up on her motorcycle one day.
Please.
Tony Gucci also gay.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a big old crush on Sheeny Beanie over there.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
That's why
That's
he's
why-
mad that Sheenie Beanie is being like incompetent, because it's like, I thought you were better than this.
Also, he's like, you must go away. I know you're mourning your wife, but I want you. So it's really obvious. It's right
Come
there on
back
the
when a
page.
respectful mourning period has passed, and
It's right
we'll
there
see
on
where
the
this goes.
screen.
He's
Also,
like,
again,
"Yeah,
I
I'm
think
totally
Dolly
gonna
is
find your
self-spawning.
wife." No, he's not.
Dolly is self-spawning, Alessa self-spawning, and that's to some degree gay.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
The reason she couldn't say who the dad was because actually, it was her lesbian witch powers.
Actually, she did it herself, and that is very feminist, by the way.
A woman can do anything, okay?
Uh-huh.
Including fucking evolve.
Yeah.
Literally do some sort of evolutionary thing
Try
to have
it
a child on her
yourself.
own. I see that from Dahlia. Also, just want to give some shine to that actress because she was in this like sad looking terrible outfit the whole time and like rolling on the ground and blah
Her
blah blah. And
gray
then they
hair
do
and her face.
yeah, and then they do the flashback and she's like the most gorgeous woman
Fucking
I'd ever
smoke
seen.
show.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Pace
take my
Klein.
breath away. I was like, holy shit, this
Hot as
poor
hell.
woman.
Even as Dirty Dahlia, like you face card was there. You could see it under all
Oh
of the
yeah,
grime.
she had like crazy eyes underneath
Yeah.
that hair. But I was like,
Cheekbones.
it's not fair that they made her look so like she's just a gorgeous person. But like they did awesome hair and makeup on her, and her costume was great for that whole flashback scene. She looked so good, and it was like this shitty ass film grain, like the screen's burning up so you can barely see her. I was like, give our girl her shine, and I will right now because I'm going to look up what her real lady name is. Why is it not just say Dahlia? There it is. Deborah Kara Unger. Love you,
Hell
girl.
yeah.
You're a smoke show. Anyway, now that we're done being gay, any other gay thoughts we'd like to share?
So many more gay thoughts.
All right, Matthew Lillard. Where is he going here?
He could be Gucci.
He could be
Maybe
Gucci.
Do you guys remember? He's put on here as elder. There's that one guy who's really tall, who's in the cult, and he's got the long hair.
Oh, yeah,
and they
yeah,
kinda, like,
because
focus on him the most.
I thought about him because he's kind of giving the man with no eyes from Yellow Jackets.
Mm.
Why do I
From
not know who that
Thaisa's
is?
like hallucination.
Okay.
You'll once you watch the most recent episode, they'll give you'll see him again.
the little flashback,
And then you'll go,
thing.
oh.
Yeah, no, I think Matthew Lillard would be great as
And
the
a
most
medium
focused
length black
upon
wig.
cult member. Yes.
I
Who's
think
not
Matthew
Christabella.
Lillard could have been armless man who spits acid.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think he'd really bring an interesting physicality. to
I
that.
think
Or-
he could have been that first guy in the suit who's up against the fence, and you see like his little eyes for just one moment, being like, "Boop."
Or he could have been
Oh,
that
I
guy
forgot
who's
about
like
that part.
in one of like she's like going down the stairs and there's like a person hanging like a dead body hanging upside down.
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
that person-
that's the corpse that made me think of Halloween Horror Nights. By the way, specifically,
Me too.
yeah, that part specifically. Yeah, I would love Matthew Lillard to be that corpse for sure.
Right?
I could
Um,
see him in Solan Baton's role as well. And I think he would bring a really interesting, compelling sort of like manic quality to the search for information. Because
Instead of so bumbling, I don't know.
yeah, and he just was like not low key, obviously. Like you could tell he was desperate, but just his energy is so different that actor's
Yeah.
performance. And I think if you were getting the more like frantic quality of it from Matthew Lillard, that would also explain like why he's like being so sloppy about it.
Mhm.
And I think he would really deliver there as well.
Also, if we didn't have Rose and he was in fact Harry and then
Mm.
he was still had a husband who is
Gay.
Sean Bean and they had to adopt a daughter because they're a gay male couple. I think that's
That-
it. And it keeps to the storyline.
Mhm,
Boom,
mhm.
boom.
And then
As
he
long
can
as
just
they
have like a
keep the
queer
gay energy,
platonic
I'm fine with it.
friendship with Sybil where she takes off her helmet and we see that she's gay. And then he's like, "Me too, queen."
But
And
then,
then
like,
they are a
they kind of
buddy.
have
out the
Yeah.
whole time.
wrong. They have tension at first because the beef between the gays and the lesbians, and
Yeah.
then their journey
then
through
they queen
Silent
out.
Hill. Then they queen out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, you're so right.
Like,
Okay, yeah, that's wow. I love that we made Matthew Lillard's part gay too.
And
We're
I
really
would love
working
to see him in like
overtime.
the father searching desperately to save baby kind of role. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
he would
no,
do a good
totally.
job with one of those.
I love
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard in a video game to horror movie adaptation.
I love Matthew Lillard in video game to
Love
horror movie
Lucas
adaptation.
works in that role so well, so it's perfect.
He would
okay.
give, if we're doing gender swapping, he would be a good Christabella as well.
Yeah, he would. He really would. Good one. Okay. That brings us to our dumb bitch. Oof.
I
Who's
mean,
our dumb bitch?
since Christabella's name's already out
Christabella.
here,
Yeah, I guess it's Christabella because it's bad to kill a baby and light her on fire, and then
Yeah.
subsequently
your own
Or-
niece
Or-
as well,
The-
just because her parentage is unknown to you, like.
The whole
You ever go to burn a
religious
child
cult,
and then you kill your whole entire town?
right?
Embarrassing.
You ever feel that your own purity is so called into question by the fact that your sister maybe fucked one man without being married that you have to burn all the evidence?
She was just a hater. Okay.
like-
Also, another thing is the founding fathers of Silent Hill, who were all witch hunters. They started this.
That's so true.
And also, why do you want to hunt
Ooh.
witches? Witches are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't they
So-
think about that?
Yeah,
That's
they
dumb
could
bitch
bring
behavior,
cool
hunting
lore to
witches.
the town of Silent Hill. Dumb.
Exactly. Dumb.
Dumb bitch. Okay, we've got some good ones. I think that they're all tied because they're all related to Christabella anyway. So we can give it to Christabella because she's
Witch
the
hunters.
torturing
Mhm.
cultist, and she'll pass it down to her horrible, fucked up ancestors when she gets to hell, as
Yep.
she's heading there right now. Okay, that leads us to our knives out of 5. Chelsea, set the scene.
Yeah, like I said, it had some struggle with critics, but on IMDb, this movie has a 6.5 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes is where you really see the big dichotomy because it has 32% rotten from critics. However, it has 63% fresh from audiences. Not that that is like so good necessarily. But the majority of audience members gave it a thumbs up at least, and the vast majority of critics gave it a thumbs down. And I really am curious, like, what they were looking for that they weren't seeing necessarily. I think it is, potentially, like you were saying, that there's just a lot of things that don't really get explained in this movie, maybe because they're relying on the majority of their audience being people who have played the game who don't need it explained to them. And so critics are seeing like gaps there, whereas the creators of the movie are like, that's not, why should we have to tell you something that you already know? I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting. However, it is also worth mentioning that it was nominated for Choice Thriller at the 2016 Choice Awards.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Well, good for them. Okay, so who wants to go first with their knives out of 5s? I do not.
Do you want to go in the middle?
I'll go in the middle.
I
Okay.
can go first. I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5 knives. I really liked the first part of the movie, even though I didn't fully understand what was going on. And then like the second part of the movie, which I would consider everything after like the church and stuff. So after Anne's
Anna,
skin,
yeah.
Anna, after her skin and stuff gets ripped off, just kind of felt like a weaker point to the movie a little bit. Like,
That's fair. That's totally fair.
because like, I don't know, they like when you have to have a scene where she's like, it again, it felt you've discovered the truth. And then she just like monologues
That
about
was
like her
so video
backstory.
game to me.
Yeah.
Is like, you are not playing
So
right
video
now. We're gonna
game.
just
Yeah.
pause
An
you and then
info
we're gonna
dump.
explain shit. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And I was
apparently,
like,
just so you know, Leo and Miranda patrons rolled their eyes that whole 7-minute monologue flashback part as well.
okay, thank God we're on that same page.
We're on the same page.
But like, I didn't know anything about the game. I knew like a couple of the characters and I'd seen this movie before, but like I completely forgot about it, which is so it was like weird where it was like, okay, I know I've seen this, but I do not remember anything about it.
Mhm,
Um, it had incredible atmosphere. Know what I mean? Like,
totally.
and so I was like
The
really,
vibes.
I was like really invested in the vibes, and then it just kind of like lost me a little bit. Like I think it could have been 30 minutes shorter and been
How
a
can it be
tight
30 minutes?
90.
If they could make it 30 minutes shorter and explain what I needed to be explained to me still, then yes.
But that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't
Like,
want it to be 30 minutes longer. Just rewrite the middle part so it tells me what's going on.
but that's
Sorry.
what I'm saying.
This is
I think
yours.
they could have like
Yeah.
maybe in some of the clues, like when she's like finding clues, she could have found more backstory. And like as she's going to these different places, she's like piecing things together and also being chased by evil demon monsters instead of just getting like going to all these places. And then because she went to all these places and have like collected all the clues, then she just gets told the truth. Know what I mean? Like,
I feel
You've
like
unlocked this part of the story.
uh-huh.
for me, the beginning part, and this is not a knock to what you just said. I feel like the beginning part was like style over substance. And so then like the back half was like
Uh-oh.
Too
Gotta
much
put the
substance.
substance back
too
in.
much
Yeah.
substance. Yeah. So like that's why the beginning part was fun because it was like, what the fuck is
Is
going
like
on? There's
what's
a
going
hot
on?
lesbian cop. What's
Yeah.
happening? There's
And it
burning
makes sense that they
babies.
wanted to be like the mystery of it all. So we don't want to be telling you anything right now. We want you to just enjoy being like, what is this? But yeah, it's hard when it's like the answer to that is taking a moment to be
A
like,
seven
let me
minute
tell you
monologue.
what the mystery is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
literally. Yeah. No, and it's so funny because we just were at this is exactly something that came up in the Q&A for the monkey that Chelsea and I were at last night. Osgood Perkins, the director of the monkey, came out and there was one question, remember, Chelsea, that was about like what you write on the page, and it's better
Mm-hmm.
for the writing to like lead you to ideas instead of the characters. His example was like, it's so crazy that I'm seeing you now after 12 years. I feel weird about it. Like if the character said that, like that's less like impactful than like them having some sort of two characters having a conversation where it's uncomfortable and they're acting out those feelings instead of just saying it completely. And so that's what I feel like happened with the writing in the second half. They're like, let me just have Alessa tell you exactly what happened. One thing after another, and then still it didn't make sense. So we had to sit through that clunky part and it still didn't give me all the answers that I was looking for. So I've started my thing now.
I
I
figured.
am gonna give this a 3, I guess. I don't want to go lower than that because that feels mean. Um, but I didn't have that good of a time, but I didn't have that bad of a time either. Unfortunately, this is exactly the type of tone of movie that I don't fuck with. It's like just hit that exact sweet spot that I always have a hard time like putting into words, like the vibe that I don't necessarily like. And that this was exactly it, which is weird because I love Halloween Horror Nights. I love the maze aspect, and this did look like that, but I don't want a movie to look like the maze. You know what I mean? The maze is supposed to be the bootleg version of the movie, in my opinion. Sorry, like because it has to be, because they're not gonna have the production value to make it that immersive, and that's part of the charm. I don't know. I just think that this movie has, obviously, it's based off something so incredible and so nuanced and so beloved. And I don't know, I can't say that it didn't do a good job of what it did because I haven't done it. I haven't played the game. I can't speak on that at all. But I just think it kind of leaves behind the watcher who doesn't have all of that lore. And apparently it might even piss off the people who do have all of that lore because it changed so much in a seemingly unnecessary way, like taking away the main character who that I'm assuming they played as the whole game. I think that was kind of a shocking choice. Besides the whole Dahlia bit, which I don't really understand, and I can't speak to that at all. But like the fact that they like the main character is Harry, and then they're like, there's no Harry though now, by the way. There is instead a beautiful woman named Rose, who I loved as a watcher and not a game head. Um, but yeah, I just think that it's a little bit messy. But again, to echo what Sydney just said, the vibes are immaculate in many ways too. Even though it's not exactly what I'm looking for, they did create a really cool and cohesive visual world. And like we didn't talk about this enough, the fucking nurse scene was so crazy cool. I thought that was so nerve-wracking and I love the way it looks and I love they had the little knives and like
They're all doing their shivs, yeah.
yeah, they had their shivs and they're all frozen and she like had to go right around them and
You
put
need the
herself
light, but
in
it
harm's
draws them
way.
closer.
And then when the one like like still sensed her and then they started slashing each other's throats trying to get to her. It was just gruesome and disgusting and awesome and it was really cool. I loved the acid coming out of that weird thing that we don't know what it is. I loved the weird uh horseshoe crab. Very hard for me to say that word. Or that animal. I love the horseshoe crab man. Weird as fuck. No idea. I love that it eats people.
They're
It was
dinosaurs.
fantastic. I don't need to know about what that one means. That's fine for me. But yeah, it had a lot going for it. It's just not unfortunately didn't hit for me. But that's not to say that it's a bad movie. I'm glad that I watched it. It's cool to learn about this thing that so many people like. So I thought I'm glad we did it. So
Now
thank
we
you,
know
patrons, for
Pyramid
making us
Head's
do it.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's hot. And he's
And
got a big
he's
sword.
seems like a big horror icon, so it's nice to be in the know.
Exactly.
I was surprised by how much fun I had with this movie and how much I liked it. I feel both in talking about it that we've engaged with some lore that makes me more interested, and also there's some stuff about it that I like less than when I watched the movie on my own. Um, no, I mean, the sexual assault themes are real and throughout, I suppose. So some of that I allowed to Colin, I got what his deal was, but I maybe didn't realize it went as far as it did. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I had fun. I felt like I loved that there were so many female characters to follow. I thought that was very engaging for me. I think if it had been a male protagonist named Harry, I would be significantly less interested personally.
Unless it was played by Matthew Lillard.
Unless it was played by Matthew Lillard. But I think I mean, we've talked about this the whole time. I think it is just one of those tricky things where you both want to tell an engaging story about what happened in Silent Hill and all of the cool lore from the video games and include as much as you can as a nod or an Easter egg or whatever, because those are the exciting parts of the game, but also you want to tell an original story arc about a mother looking for her child and the lengths that she'll go. And I thought a mother is a god to her child thing. I liked that. It was a little heavy-handed, but I liked it. And I mean, I'm always down for a mommy daughter movie. That always appeals to me. So that was a
Same.
pull for sure. I loved that Rose was like kind of a badass by the end. And that she had that traditional role that, like I said, I at least have typically seen more for dads. So that was cool. It made me interested in watching more of the Silent Hill movies. It made me interested in playing the Silent Hill game. I don't know that I will necessarily, but I'm like intrigued. I want to know more. I thought it was like a fun time for sure. And I really never, again, I didn't really know what the deal was with this movie at all, but I really did not expect to have a good time. And I had a fun time. I'd be curious to see how I'd feel on a second watch, if I would like it more or less after this discussion. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it like a 4.2, I think, because I really was
Sweet.
like surprised by how much fun I was having.
Good. I'm
I was
glad.
coming
I'm
in
glad
with
you had a
real
great
hater
time.
vibes, so surprised me.
That's great.
Surprise,
That's awesome.
surprise.
That's great that it could overcome the hater vibes
I
because
know, isn't that
that is
crazy?
really hard to do. It
I
did
guess
not do that for
maybe
me. I
I had
actually
kind
was
of gone through hater
excited.
waves. Yeah.
I was actually excited, and then I started it and I was like, oh no. I was like, the vibes are not vibing. Well, actually, I like the beginning part. Anyway, but that's the end on Silent Hill. Don't kill me if you are mad that I didn't like it that much, but I was still
If
loving.
you liked it though, you should watch The Gorge maybe on Apple TV. Just for
Oh,
anybody
really?
listening.
What's this?
I watched it with Manu and I slept through most of the like parts that are Silent Hilly about it, so I can't really say if anybody would enjoy that, but I think there are things there that would be of interest to someone who likes this. And it has big video game vibes, but also, if you ask me, it's not a very good movie. But again, I slept through
You
a
should
good
watch this
chunk of
movie
it.
that I
So
really don't like.
I think there's things there, if you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this,
yeah,
that
yeah.
would be interesting.
Okay, fair. Well, Chelsea, you're introducing the next one. You want to
I
tell
am. I
me?
am introducing the next one. You might have noticed that we did something a little different this month than we've done in other months. Usually, when it comes to werewolf versus vampire seasonal depression event, we front load it, front of the month. Different story this time around. We just gave you a little more space. We wanted the seasonal depression event to go out on a bang. Not to say that next episode is the last one, but this is
But
how we're
this is the
closing out
last
the month.
two.
Yeah, the last two. So, second to last, we're doing Werewolf. Werewolf is
Penultimate.
up next. And I'm very excited. I've never seen this movie. I don't know if either of you guys have seen this movie.
I haven't.
But people have been telling me for a decade and a half, 2 decades, that I need to watch this movie. I don't know why I've never watched it other than nobody has like sat me down and put it on. Um, but I'm very excited. We are doing the 2000 era movie 2000 with Catherine Isabel. If you don't know from that alone, it is called Ginger Snaps. So,
Hell
I think
yeah.
a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of stuff I'm excited to see for myself and discuss. Another girly horror movie. So, the
Girly werewolf movie?
girls.
Come on.
I
I'm
think it
so
is
stoked.
finally the right time. I think the stars have finally aligned.
I think this is going to be more my vibe. I'm super excited, and I'm really excited for us to close out the werewolf portion of Werewolf versus Vampire seasonal depression event with a fun little bangerang, which feels very Spooky Tuesday coded. But who's to say? We'll find out next week.
We'll find out.
Exciting. But it's the end of the episode, and you're like, wow, you know, we just went through a trial and a tribulation. We saw so many things. We're learning so much together. We're discussing whether or not we're game heads or not. There's a lot to happen. And why not say it's so great to bond with you over the course of a 2-hour episode in a 5-hour in a 5-hour in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Or you could just give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. It would be so beautiful. It would be so wonderful. We would really appreciate it. And why not follow us on social media? We're at spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we are Spooky Tuesday Pod. Also, check out our website, www.spookytuesdaypod.com, where you can find everything about Spooky Tuesday that you could possibly want, including the link to our Patreon. And let us remind you that this week is our Patreon chosen episode. We do one once a quarter. So if you join our Patreon, besides a myriad of other things, you will get to have your voice heard and have us choose a film that you specifically want. So we might not have ever done Silent Hill if they hadn't chose it. And that's the type of influence you could have. So check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday. And we are dressed up. So you could see that on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you could see me as Sybil, and you could see Chelsea as beautiful Rose. She is dripping with blood.
And
You could also see Ladybug batting Sydney in the face. So I loved that
Yes.
personally.
And I'm also dressed up as the woman who keeps telling Sean Bean, no, I will not give you these personal files. Good day.
That's confidential information.
Yeah.
You don't see her, but it was Sydney.
Mhm.
It was me,
That's
actually.
who it was.
That's why she
in
has
case
the
you wanted
big
to know.
headphones on for answering calls all day long.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. But
Not
you can
because
only
I
see
don't know
this-
where my AirPods are.
Not that at all. Not that at
At
all.
all.
But you can see all of this wonderfulness on our YouTube channel, so please go subscribe there. And that's the end of the episode. So at the end of the day, I have to say thank you for listening. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.